Do not inhale your coffee. All right, I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, February 8th, 2023 City Workshop. Hello, everybody. Just a quick reminder, there's a few more people in the room than normal. Please silence cell phones if you don't mind. Thank you very much. And we're just going to get going. All five of us are here. So first up is the discussion of City of Sisters, Deschutes County Sheriff Services. And looks like Joe's going to kick us off. I do want to remind everybody too that we have a pretty full workshop. So hopefully, 20, 30 minutes, we can get this one out.
Yeah, fair enough. So Lieutenant Chad Davis and I will be kind of tag teaming this presentation here. So he's going to come up and, but I'm going to kind of introduce our topic. As you might know, the city entered into a revised contract with the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office in July of 2020, and that was on the heels of kind of a reevaluation of law enforcement services within the city. Part of that discussion process, which I was a small part of, and our former city manager, Corey Misey, as you know, was a big part of, in addition to the Sheriff's Office, of course, was the duration of that contract. Now, the Sheriff really wanted a 5-year contract just for the financial stability of the services, which makes good sense. The city was inclined to go from 3 to 5 years, and so we kind of compromised at an evaluation time, and that evaluation time was March 1st of 2023, which is rapidly approaching. So when Lieutenant Davis and Carrie and I got together to evaluate the services, we had just a lot of input from not only him but from the office and just from the community, quite frankly. And that input is, we're getting busier, and Chad can speak to this, but we're up, I think, from 21 to 22 over 1,000 calls, and so we are kind of examining the opportunity of adding additional sheriff deputy. And so that's what this conversation is about. And so that's just kind of the introduction to it. Chad's going to kind of go through the services, and you feel free to ask him any questions during that presentation. And then I'll kind of go into the financial perspective of that after he's done. So I think we can have this pretty free flowing. And if you want to ask us any questions, throughout the presentation, I think that's just fine. Chad, if you feel differently, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, Lieutenant Davis. Good to see you again.
Thank you. So we'll be talking a little bit about some review on how we got here and where we're currently at. So in 1998, the Sheriff's Office started a contract with the City of Sisters. The police department went away at that time. Those deputies, or the officers, became deputies, and they were absorbed inside the Sheriff's Office. And for over 20 years, that contract was in place. And obviously in 2020, that contract, there was discussion about that contract being renewed or expanded or changed, with a big focus being on local control. And you wanted dedicated deputies for the City of Sisters. And so in July of 2020, that new contract went in effect. And since that time, since 2020, you've got numbers there where we're talking about calls for service, where in 2020 we were just over 2,900. You can see in 2021 we went up to about 3,500, and now just finishing up 2022 we're just over 3,800 calls. So about 900 calls for service over that 2-year period where we've increased. And so per the contract in March of 2023, we're doing this review on staffing. And I think Joe can speak to it earlier. In part of those negotiations, it was being debated on whether 3 or 4 deputies were going to be considered at that time, and the city decided to go with a lieutenant and 3 deputies. So a little bit more conservative approach at the beginning of that contract. So obviously our team here, myself, Deputy Morris, Deputy Hudson, and Deputy Westfall are your dedicated City of Sisters deputies.
Excuse me. Can I ask
Sure.
about those numbers?
Yeah.
On the report, it says that there are self-initiated calls. Those are the calls that the deputies and your office is making, correct?
Yes.
So when you take out those calls, in 2020, you end up with public calls of 1,730, and 2021, 1,426, and in 2022, 882, which is actually a decline of almost 50% of public calls.
Okay, so those stats, the way that they're actually self-initiated, those numbers that are on the right, those are in addition to the numbers on the left. So we were actually at like 4120.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, so
Okay,
those
thank
are
you.
actually above and beyond.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. Okay. So since 2020, and our deputies have been in place, we have enhanced the services delivered to the city. We have decreased our response times. We've vastly improved our investigative abilities, both with some of that is my direction and some of my expertise, and passing that on to the deputies, working with them directly on cases, and having more direct involvement and continuity on casework. We have focused patrols, whether that's in particular neighborhoods that we get complaints about, and then also adding bike patrols, which we did not have before. As far as traffic enforcement, per our surveys that the city had put out in 2019 and 2021, traffic was the number one concern. We're doing over 500 more traffic stops per year since that contract's been in place. We purchased a radar speed trailer, which we use. It's been in service, I think, all but 2 days when the batteries died. Since that time, it's continually out and in the public and on out there helping us or raise awareness out there. We were part of creating a new strategic plan for the city for law enforcement moving forward. We also are working more directly with event planners and coordinators as we have Sisters Folk Festival, where we changed some of our operation with that, adding crosswalk duty and things like that, being responsive to their requests. And then just in community outreach, things that we were not doing before, National Night Out, we just hosted our community academy, and then we made several presentations to community groups, the Chamber, Kiwanis Club, Rotary, and then other HOA groups in the community. And then also just increase our presence in school zones with a focus on traffic and safety. Under the current contract, we provide 160 hours of patrol coverage per week. And that coverage on day shift is 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on Wednesday through Saturday, we have a swing shift that is from 2 p.m. to midnight. And so then in those hours when we're not working, as you know, our West deputies cover when we're not available or when after that those shifts are over. So what we've identified is that we have gaps in our coverage, specifically Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights when we don't have that swing shift. And so we have seen, and I'll give you a few examples of some calls, times when we've had a quick response time with our West deputy, and then there's times that we haven't, that response time has been lagged. The Lonesome Water Books case, that was the burglary that happened, there was a suspect who was armed with a hatchet breaking into the building. One of our West deputies was out here just right after 6 and was on scene, got the suspect in custody with some help from Black Butte Ranch, but was on scene very quickly. We also had a pretty high profile case at Dakota's where it took our deputy 26 minutes to arrive because he was a West deputy. It was on, I believe, a Tuesday night or Monday night. So we didn't have that swing shift coverage where we would have had Wednesday through Saturday. So in that instance, the coverage response time was longer. Another example is a case that we had yesterday. We just put a press release out. We had robbery that occurred at one of our houseless camps just on the edge of town. It was crossing the boundaries of county and into city. So we were, our deputies were there within minutes, and that was our City of Sisters deputies in addition to our West deputy. And so there are times when our West deputies are on scene quickly, and there's times when they're not. So as part of that, we just have seen those coverage gaps at times affect our response time. So what we are proposing is the addition of a fourth deputy to fill that gap in coverage. That fourth deputy would expand our coverage to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, totaling 200 hours per week of patrol time. And with the addition of that fourth deputy, we've visibly expand our presence here in the city. And that would also give us another deputy to assist with our special events, Sisters Rodeo, Folk Festival, Quilt Show, etc., with all the events that we have going. And additionally, we would be prepared for growth. We have a lot of houses that are either under construction or being proposed for construction, which I don't have the exact numbers, but I would say probably in the next couple of years, we're going to add 500 to 1,000 people to our population inside the city, which is going to impact calls for service.
May I ask another question?
Sure. Yeah.
So with the additional officer, you just, correct me if I'm wrong, you just said that we'd have coverage 18 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yeah, in the short of people being gone on vacation or sick, that would offer us the opportunity to have that coverage.
Okay, so we still have 6 hours each day that there's no coverage?
8 hours.
8
Yeah,
hours?
I'm sorry. 6, yeah. Yeah,
each day.
sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, there's the West deputy. There's.
Right.
Right.
There's just not a dedicated sisters. There is somebody, there's just not a dedicated person.
But if I'm understanding correctly, right now, it's only 3 days that we don't have coverage between 6 and midnight. And now you're saying there's going to be 7 days where there's not coverage between 6 and midnight.
No, between midnight and
8 a.m.
8
8
a.m.
a.m.
Yeah, sorry.
That's when there's no coverage, in the middle of the night. Other than the West.
Another one, the West deputy, yes.
Right.
We're going to have all the swing shifts covered, is what
Yes.
the proposal is for.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to follow up, yeah, thank you. That was a great job there. And just to speak a little bit more of the financial impact. So back to Lieutenant Davis's point about just the strategy of that contract and going, with either 3 or 4 deputies. At the time, we were trying to be mindful of the potential of going to that 4th deputy. And with that, we earmarked a law enforcement reserve line item in the budget, if you remember that. Now, a reserve is not really an appropriation category like a supply or vehicle maintenance or something like that, but it does reserve the money so it can't be spent otherwise, right? And so for the last 3 years, we've done that. So with the incorporation of this additional deputy, that reserve line item would be removed and it would go into the appropriation for the law enforcement department. So from an appropriation standpoint, it would be more, but from an available standpoint, an available funding standpoint, it wouldn't have any effect at all. So, that's a little bit of mindfulness from our prior city manager in that respect. So, because it is a financially substantial commitment, right? Going to, over $900,000 is a lot. So I'm glad we were mindful of that going forward to the initiation of that contract. So from a financial perspective, the impact will be not as it's a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it won't be as big of a surprise to our budget as it would have otherwise.
Just a quick comment. Even at that increased rate of around 900, it's still significantly less than what we would be paying as a city if we had our own police department with the same level of coverage that we would be providing with this extra individual. And this is a heck of a bargain for our town, whether people believe that or not, it is. And the work that's been done to me has been outstanding and much more noticeable than the previous contract. And that speaks highly of you and your team. And so just wanted to point that out, that while there isn't some increase in cost, that we're still way ahead of where we would be if we were trying to run our own division.
Yeah. Council President Blum and myself were in on the whole thing, basically, from the start of the negotiations. The first thing I'll say is, including the local control, there was a particular incident about 3 or 4 years ago where somebody broke in Hayden Homes, and the response time was, again, unfortunately, that particular night, the West deputy was not in the area, and I think it took over 20 minutes, if I remember correctly. And that kind of put it in our heads that these response times are very important. I mean, they're hugely important because it could be a matter of life or death, obviously, when something's being committed. So I know that was one of the other issues that really started from the beginning. It's not just now, it's always been there. And so we've always been sensitive to that. The second thing I'll say is, I think this is the least controversial relationship we have with a subcontractor, or is you guys are doing such a good job that, I think that, there are always isolated incidences that aren't optimal, but for the most part, this has gone so well. I think that the feedback I've had is got to be 95 to 99% positive in our relationship with you guys. And I think we obviously want to continue that. And if, there's always the question of if we're putting the cart before the horse, if we're doing prevention before actual crime rates go up. Are we being proactive or reactive? And you might have something to say to that, and I'd love to hear, what you want to say on that side.
Until I've already been his ear.
We've had, we talked about this before, obviously, and it's super important, but I think this is a great time. Obviously, this was baked into the relationship in the contract to look at this before March 1. So I think that it's smart that we did that. I remember the conversations back when we started this. I think I was the only one that said, let's just do 4. The money's there. Let's get 4. But, obviously we went with 3, and it's worked out very well. And I'm interested to hearing what everybody else has to say. Thanks. You want to go?
Sure. I remember the discussions too about 3, 4, 5, do we need 24-hour coverage, all that kind of stuff. And I think we landed on the right place to get it started because nobody really knew how it was going to work. And having people locally has made, to me, a significant difference in the overall feel in the community of their safety. And even though it's, the traffic is the traffic and there's nothing you can do about that, I think people occasionally go, attaboy, when they see somebody who's just being obnoxious, getting pulled over, so they know our sister's guy is on it. So I think it's worked out extremely well. When I looked at, do we need another deputy? I had to pause a little bit and say, well, things are going really well. I don't feel like there's a cry for more service, more whatever. And then, I look at the statistics and I see, our population is increasing. There's nothing that we can do about that. It's just a happening thing, as we can tell by the people who come and stand outside the door before the meeting. And so, like he said, I think our job is to somewhat be proactive in the sense of, do we want to get to the point where we're having some serious issues and then say, well, maybe we should add another deputy, or should we prepare for that inevitability and maintain the excellent service that we have now by being prepared for the increase in population? And I think it is a good time to look at that. And we have luckily our staff has foreshadowed this possible inevitability, so it would not be a huge punch on our budget that we already have prepared. So I think that this is a good call. We still are not going to have 24-hour coverage, and I don't know that we really need that with the availability of the West Deputy, and we're so lucky to have partners with Black Butte, and they're so willing to come to our aid when we need them. And when there is something big happening, I mean, we even get Forest Service guys and BLM guys and all kinds of.
And our state guy.
Anybody with a gun, they all come out. So I think this probably is a good idea. And I think it might be, I don't see it as a crucial time to do it. And if we were debating, can we afford to do this, which is really important, or add more deputies, I would be balancing that much more seriously. But we're not cutting out something important for the community in order to do this. So I think it's prudent, long story short, I think it's prudent to move forward with this new additional deputy.
Just two comments. One's a math clarification within this reserve. Is this just every year that you've just set aside 136,000? So it hasn't accumulated over the last 3 years?
No, it's more or less a placeholder. Good question.
Okay.
Bummer.
Yeah, I know.
There goes the jet.
Yeah. Law enforcement jet. Yeah, I mean, to dovetail into what Councillor Blum was saying, you have to weigh these things. It's a big dollar amount with what else we could be spending that money on, and there are other things, but we have thanks to hard work of our staff, we have a nice solid budget. And yes, I mean, a lot of the problems we are seeing in our communities and we're grappling with are the results of not responding to the fact that there are more people. There are more people in the world, there are more people in Oregon, there are more people in our communities, and and our services have not scaled appropriately to manage that, and I think I see the value in this to get ahead of it. I don't want to be behind. We are already having to grapple with a lot of issues where we're far behind, and we all know how difficult of a lift that is to catch up. And I think that, the Sheriff Department has proven over the last couple of years that they are a value add. They are more, I think, than law enforcement. I feel like they've been really trying to focus on being community members. I've seen that, I've heard other people say that, so that's all I have to say.
Did you want to?
Yeah, on the raise, you talked about a 4% raise, and I'm wondering why it's not 5%, because like the county commissioners got 5%, and our staff is getting 5%, and just seems to me that seems more fair relative to the inflations, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a good question. That was another thing that was brought up in those negotiations, and I think one of the components of that was just the collective bargaining environment that those deputies are under. And so I think that was kind of just I think it was just a good kind of a hedge for overall what the adjustment, whatever their pay is. So needless to say, that pay doesn't go directly to those deputies. It goes to the sheriff's office, who in turn pays those deputies. And so whatever their arrangement is their responsibility, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I would add is, we all know that we live on a major transportation corridor. We also know that some of our higher profile incidents are a result of living on that major transportation corridor, although some people would think it's just another sign of our community going to the dogs and there's too many people and we have all this crime. But the reality is that your presence here and really cuts down on the sort of incidental sorts of things that happen in any community. We're never going to stop the high risk traffic stops coming over the mountain, or those kinds of things are going to happen because of where we are. But having your presence here and the presence of the officers here helps keep that situation becoming worse than it might be. And I also like the fact you stick the name City of Sisters on the side of the cars. I really, it's a small thing, but it speaks to the community. It really
So
does,
too.
because no one says you have to do that. Well, we asked you to, but
We did.
Yeah, we did.
That was part of the
That was-
agreement. We knew how
we made
important
sure.
that was to the community.
We actually wanted a bigger logo, if I remember
Yeah.
right. We had to negotiate that down to a
the
smaller
sheriff,
logo.
the
but
sheriff said you couldn't cover up half of the word sheriff with the city logo.
Yeah.
We also wanted blacked out windows, and they said no, so that's okay. I want to summarize it. There's been a lot of talk about a lot of different subjects in this week's nugget. There's an open letter to the Sister City Council. And the final, the very final sentence in here says, remember, it's your responsibility to protect us. We're taking that to heart with this. I think that this is the best way to protect people is by having a significant, though friendly and community involved law enforcement team, and we have that. So thank you very much. It sounds like we have mostly positive things to say, or all positive things, and I think that can we all head nod and say we want to go that direction? Does that sound fair enough?
Okay,
There you go.
great, thank you.
How's that?
Sounds great to me.
Hey, we appreciate all the hard work you do. You have the most dangerous job in town. Just stay safe always. Thank you for what you do.
Pass it on to the deputies. I wave really hard at them, but I don't know that they really, I always wonder, do they think I'm trying to flag them down or I'm just giving them a thumbs up? I don't know.
They do a great job. Thank
They
you.
do.
Thanks, Lieutenant Davis. Have a good night. Okay, next up is ODOT update. Mr. Townsend.
All good news tonight.
Yeah, let's have nothing but good news. We
Yeah.
can do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. Bob Townsend, ODOT Area Manager here in Central Oregon. Just wanted to come and give an update on certainly the Locust Roundabout, as we'll be here a couple times over the next few months giving updates and talking about the intergovernmental agreement here. Probably at your next meeting, but certainly want to give an update on that. And at the same time, just a lot of activity on Highway 20 coming out of Bend towards Sisters, and thought it would be appropriate to give an uppate on those
It's taken
projects.
a good 15 minutes out of my life every time I go to bed.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly there's a substantial impact there, and hopefully the end product will be worth it, but wanted to give a little bit of an update on those two for you and answer obviously any other questions related to ODOT that I can, or at least take back the questions and find you answers if I can't. So I'm going to start with the Locust project, and some of this is, we've talked about it before here, but just start from scratch just in case there's any additional questions. And as most of you know, we applied for $5 million as part of the ODOT Enhanced program. That was a competitive application last year. There was $45 million statewide, which isn't a lot of money, and Region 4 here in the Central Oregon actually got 20 million of the 45, so we were pretty successful there. The dollars aren't available theoretically until October 1 of this year, the 2024 federal fiscal year. But I'll talk about how that relates to how we're advancing the project now, so that we can stay on schedule. It also includes, what our agreement that we'll bring forward here. If you remember, we've done a couple over the past, an initial $250,000. We've done a couple things about potential right-of-way donations. All in all, the total is, and certainly you'll have to, give final approval on that, but based on our previous conversations, is around 1.25 million of a contribution. That's not all cash. About 600,000 of it is in the form of a right-of-way donation from the school district property that you purchased. So that's what the subject of the agreement that we'll bring forward here probably next month for your review. We're currently preparing drafts, working with city staff, and then also our DOJ is reviewing it. In addition, the Deschutes County has committed $1 million. That agreement's already been signed. They'll provide the $1 million around August of this year so that we can maintain the schedule that we've agreed on. But certainly that's been to the I think it was to the board last month, or maybe it was December when I always get confused on some of those approvals, but certainly it was signed and approved by both ODOT and Deschutes County. I'll talk about schedule in a little bit, but our goal is always, even though those funds aren't technically available, we're doing, just like I'm sure the city does, some cash flow behind the scenes stuff sometimes to just borrow ahead of our money to keep moving towards that 2024 completion date, substantially complete before Memorial Day. That's our goal, similar to what we did at Barclay, where we tried to have it open or substantially open before Memorial Day a few years ago. Here's the updated exhibit or map of the roundabout. This is actually, granted, there's minor details, but this is what it is, because we've already, like we said, the city's purchased some right of way for the project. We're acquiring the other right of way, so this footprint has to stay. That's our longest time frame. We're starting that process with the other business owners now of acquiring the right of way. And I just want to stress, we certainly are on schedule for, substantially complete by next Memorial Day, but there's a lot of moving pieces from now until then. We try to give a whole entire calendar year for right-of-way negotiations to be fair to the property owners, and we of course do appraisals, make fair offers, and then have a negotiation window. But those are all, fluid, right? They can go faster, they can take longer, and we certainly don't want to condemn property if we don't have to. Certainly that's within our authority, but it's really about getting a fair price to the property owners out there. But anyhow, so you can see, right, this is a little bit more substantial curvature than exists at Barclay, but the reason for it is, similar to what we've done out there, and that one's a little farther into town, is we want to slow traffic, right? And nothing slows traffic other than changing that line of sight so they have to curve around. The other benefit of this is we can construct 75% of it outside of the US 20 traffic. Certainly it's going to have an effect on locusts, but at least you can see there from where the highway is on the bottom part of the picture, we can construct the large center portion of the roundabout outside of traffic. The other thing that's not clearly shown, I don't have a laser pointer. Do you were smart not to give it to me ahead of time, because I would overuse it. But one of the areas, and it's hard to tell here, is similar to the Barclay roundabout. We'll have a large truck bypass that'll be hidden in there, right? Obviously, if you've been here for a while, know that we've never used the truck bypass on Barclay. It just exists as a pedestrian crossing with, bollards at each end. That'll be the same case here. We'll use the old roadway for any future large loads. And the reason for this is, we're going to try to make it look not like a highway there, but that's the only way we can get a roundabout approved on Highway 20 with the trucking industry, who has ultimate final approval. And so that bypass will exist just like it does on the other end. But otherwise, this is what it's going to look like. There's going to be, sidewalk connections, pedestrian crossings, everything really similar. Probably don't have to go in a lot of detail because we see it on the other end of town. But I guess while I'm on that, any questions about this particular exhibit?
Yeah, I'd really like you to expand upon the truck bypass, because I don't think we're all super familiar with that. Is that for longer and wider trucks? So when they're coming through, they have permits pulled, you can pull those bollards and they don't have to negotiate the roundabout or even try?
Yeah, so generally we have annual permit trucks that do not have to notify us ahead of time. The rules vary a lot, but let's just say a typical 100-foot long truck that's less than 12 feet wide can come and go anytime, no notification. They buy their permits ahead of time. Then there's these super loads that could be over 12 feet wide and over 100 feet long that have to notify us ahead of time. They have to submit traffic control plans, and sometimes they're the ones we say, hey, you have to have 4 pilot cars in front, 2 in the rear, and when you get to certain intersections, you need to block the sides and do all those things. So in those cases, they would have the extra personnel. They'd have notified us, it's usually 2 weeks in advance, and we would come out here with ODOT staff, remove the bollards because they're locked, and we would help them get through. But like I said, these are these what if loads, right? And it's really, we've done a lot of modeling on both ends. We can get 120, 130, it just depends on the configuration. Sometimes the longer loads have steering mechanisms in the back, so they're really not a problem. And the other thing that's unique about Highway 20, and it's just part of negotiating with motor carrier and the trucking industry, since they're paying a lot of the federal taxes on transporting goods, is this is like a future build. They can't get these loads past Detroit Lake and the
Right.
dam, right? So this isn't a preferred route. It's still Highway 26. It's still Interstate 84 down 97. So the only long loads that have used Highway 20 in the past 10 years that may have needed the bypass, but they actually didn't, were some beams that were hauled directly out of Eugene to Central Oregon, right? Which very easily could have just went up to the gorge over and down 97. So it's really a rare opportunity, but at the same time, it's part of the approval process, so it exists. But like I said, we'll do everything possible to make it look organic. How about we say that, so that it doesn't look like an extra road.
And the only question I had is, I'm kind of thinking about this, that left turn onto Jefferson, if you are westbound, will that be no longer available?
Is this Jeff?
No, on the other end, right there.
Yeah.
That traffic stacks up there quite a bit when people are trying to turn onto Jefferson currently with the existing road. They get into the turn lane to make the turn up onto Barkley in order to get around traffic that's stopping, trying to turn onto Jefferson. Will that?
Yeah, this will
Yeah,
still
that'd
have
be-
the median will stop back here, and so
Okay.
there'll still be access there.
They could still have a left turn.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a larger scale question, but on the north side, when you put the roundabout in, eventually that came with, stepping down the speed limit outside of the city limits into the city. And that is very much not what's happening on this end of town. So is that going to trigger like a traffic study and hopefully maybe have a similar speed step down?
No, that's a good point. It will trigger a speed analysis, and so if you remember from the last time, we can't preemptively lower speeds. We have to do an analysis to see what people are driving, and then we can only lower speeds a certain percentage by law. So once it's all constructed, we'll do some speed analysis through there and see if we can actually lower it. But usually roundabouts do have a calming effect. I'll talk, the ones outside of Bend right now that we're installing in a 55-mile-an-hour area, we really think we're going to get to 35 of entry mile, or 35 miles per hour after construction, but that won't be done until after construction.
Okay. Yeah, because that side of town, it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
When you compare the two sides of town, and especially right when you hit the boundary on the east side. I mean, you have a very dense, neighborhood of a mobile home park and all of the businesses with Five Pine and, just boom, right there, and it's still a 45-mile-an-hour
Yeah, most definitely.
with no pedestrian crossings or anything. So, I mean, that's something that has been, I think a lot of people agree it has been an issue that we'd like to improve. So.
Yeah, and I think I've joked about it numerous times here, but this is just the nature of transportation, right? We were all excited to get to Barclay done, right? And then at the celebration, we talked about, now let's get Locust. And then we haven't started Locust yet, and we're starting to talk about the 126 and 20 roundabouts. So I have a few years for retirement, so I'm sure we'll continue the discussions around this end of town and making those small improvements. But certainly our hopes are that the speed will be reduced upon completion of that.
Great, thank you.
Is ODOT considering any overpasses for animals?
We are considering an overpass for animals south of Bend, at South Century, the Sun River area. We have an overcrossing in preliminary design that we're seeking funding for. It's a combination, if you know that stretch. We have 3 wildlife crossings now. It's due 2 more when we complete the 4-lane section, and one of them, just because the way the road dips down and hills on both sides will probably be an overcrossing, but they're very expensive. And so we're going to be relying on a federal grant that we'll be applying for here in the next year for that.
But none planned on 20.
No, not at this time. What the state of Oregon's done and through Portland State University and the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife is doing some, and the report's not done yet, but it's doing some high-level analysis. We certainly have crash data on when deer are hit. We record every one that we remove off the roadway, not every one that's hit, because obviously a lot of people don't turn in those incidents. So we have that information, and then they've tried to correlate that information with actually migration corridors. And there's a really limited amount of funds. Only a couple states actually have funding programs. There's been a topic at the legislative session this year about potentially a bill that would add wildlife crossing funds. There was the last time around, but 5 million statewide doesn't even build a single overcrossing. It was more of a planning level effort. But excuse me. All that being said, that study will show some of these areas that are priorities. And like we talk about, there's really two general types of these wildlife crashes. It's where there's an alfalfa field on both sides and the deer just going back and forth, right? And then south of Bend, it's the migration corridor where we see a lot of not just deer, but elk and other animals, from winter grounds to spring and summer feeding. And so certainly those will be more of our priority. And that's not to say they don't exist on Highway 20, but just not to the level. And there's one at I-5 that's substantial too. So I imagine, the long-term plan will mark out a lot of these different areas across the state, but it will prioritize probably the I-5 and the Highway 97 crossings first.
Thank you. Thank you for that thorough response.
All right.
Yeah.
Continue
Next
please,
slide.
with the roundabout.
So just time-wise, so we are working, we've advanced some money, borrowed ahead, if you will, just because we want to maintain that schedule. Right now, we're scheduled for the project to bid, hopefully in November. That means, where we put it out and a contractor bids on it, and we select the low bidder so that they can start work at the end of January, February, similar to what we did at Locust, and then we were open by Memorial Day, or operational, right? We still have a lot of details that work behind the scenes, but that's our goal. The schedule's on pace right now. I just want to bring awareness to it. We're moving forward to that, but if we even have a month of delay, it's really a year of delay because we won't construct out in the summer, right? It's not practical for anybody. So if we miss that window, we'll probably go to the following fall, not a full year delay, but then we'd start like after Labor Day, if you will, again. But everything's looking for, we're on pace right now. Like we said, we've started right-of-way acquisition. That's the big thing. We have design, at the point it needs to be, but I'll continue to give updates along the road, but just wanted to share
You'll
that.
let us know if somebody's giving you trouble.
Yes, no, I think, well, to the degree I'm allowed to share that information, certainly. Yeah, there's other factors, certainly Paul's involved on our project team and certainly will help us work through some of those day-to-day issues if there is anything that pops
For
up.
the audience, that was tongue in cheek, okay?
So that's it on Locust before I get to any other questions about it?
One thing I would say is that as far as how that roundabout goes, it's about safety and public safety. And again, it kind of dovetails into our earlier conversation. This protects everybody in town, especially people who walk across Cascade every day. I think that this is certainly going to be very helpful for pedestrian safety as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and certainly just one more thing on that, right? We've all seen from the other roundabout, as much as we said it, 6 or 7 years ago when we started to come to council before construction, it's not going to fix congestion, right? It's slowing speeds, it's helping left turns, but as long as Highway 20 is, one lane in each direction, Sisters will be a bottleneck, right? But this certainly protects both ends. It allows the alternate route to be used. And certainly that'll be a discussion for us at some point over the next year about how we sign, what the appropriate use of the alternate route is, and things like that. But just, I think we're all aware from seeing the roundabouts now, they're not an end-all solution, but certainly it makes it safer for everybody to access.
There hasn't been a T-bone
Exactly.
accident in a long time.
Yeah, it's almost 100% crash reduction from the T-bone accidents, right?
Sure. All right.
So US 20, so this will be a little bit confusing, but it's just the way I can explain it easier. We actually have 2 active construction projects on the north end of Bend. Nobody really, know if you're out there now, you don't know when you cross the line, except that Kiewit has unique marked trucks compared to Markham and Sons, the other contractor, but otherwise it just looks like one project to everybody, but we still have it broken out in 2 because that's how the funding works and the schedules are a little different. The first projects here are the first 2 roundabouts, the roundabout in Tumalo and the roundabout at Old Bend Redmond Highway that you've seen substantial construction on. And that project also includes paving through Tumalo to Cooley Road. It also includes a multi-use path between Cooley and Old Bend Redmond, and it also includes a pedestrian undercrossing in Tumalo. As you've noticed, that work's really, really going. The goal is to have the Old Bend Redmond roundabout operational in May. It may be a little sooner than that. We've lost a few weeks here just because of some cold weather. It's hard to work out there, and then the Tumalo roundabout operational in July. If you want to go to the next slide, I'll show the picture. So these aren't like the sisters roundabouts. These will be the biggest roundabouts in the state. They're dual lane, although that shows 2 trucks just so that people can see that 2 trucks could fit. It's illegal to drive parallel to a truck in a roundabout. So that picture's in jest there, but I just wanted to show that they're substantially bigger because we got 2 lanes going in each direction. The other thing you'll notice here that's different than ours and sisters is the crosswalks on each end will be the push button rapid flashing beacons where you push the button as a bike or ped and it lights up and everybody has to stop for you to cross. Since you're crossing multiple lanes, that's required by law. On single lanes, really not necessary, but something we do look at if there are a lot of pedestrian incidents. But I just wanted to share this. If you Google ODOT Tumalo roundabout, there's videos that show this a fake drone, right, flying through these areas. You can see all the roundabouts, how they'll operate. You can see the undercrossing and things like that.
Where is the undercrossing?
So the undercrossing is in Tumalo.
North of there.
Yes.
Yes, some people say east and west, but it's on the sister's side of the roundabout, right as you come down the hill. Where traffic is shifted right now, we're
Okay.
building it
That's where
underneath.
an underpass is.
Yeah, and it connects over to the school, and it's the scenic bikeway there. The roundabout in Tumalo will still have all the push button crossings. We don't close crossings, so people will still be able to cross there if they want, but at least it provides that protected route. And the reason, it's still, it's $1.5 million to do those crossings. It'd be 3 or 4 million if the road wasn't going up, that we could use the fill slopes there to our advantage. Anyhow, so Tumalo, like I said, should be open or operational by July. It'll be a lot more operational early, but we have to move traffic around. But we're hoping fully done by July, and the Old Bend Redmond fully done by May. Next slide. And then the other project, which is the confusing part, includes 2 more roundabouts on Highway 20. This is the big $175 million project that received the federal grant a couple years ago. It includes roundabouts at US 20 in Cooley and US 20 in Roble as well. And so they're out there working on those now, just off the road. They'll start impacting traffic there as well here by the end of the month. And so those 2 roundabouts are slated to be complete by the end of the year. So, everything, fingers crossed, everything goes well. By December of this year, you hit 4 roundabouts coming into town, and traffic will be posted at 35 miles an hour through those majority of the roundabouts. So
Cooley Road and Roble Road are going to
Yeah.
be finished this year?
Yes.
Wowza.
And I mean, I say that the contract requires them to be finished. If the contractor doesn't finish them, they'll be paying us, liquidated
Well, that's a good
damages.
deal.
So we're hopeful that those are done. And you'll start seeing significant impacts out there, similar to what you see right now, where we're going to be moving people back and forth. And then the main part of this project, not that that's not significant in itself, but the probably $100 million portion is over on the Highway 97 side, where this is existing 97 here, and it'll be moved over to the railroad. It'll tie back in here at Empire. So if you're coming from Redmond and going to Bend, you won't have any lights to stop at here anymore. The old highway will remain. It'll just be Business 97, or we'll probably call it 3rd Street, because after it's done, you'll be able to connect 3rd Street all the way into town, both directions. So the Highway 97 work is starting now. It's starting out over behind buildings so that you can't really see it. We won't be impacting traffic on 97 until early next year, but it's slated to be done by the end of 2024 as well. All the same movements, the loop ramp and everything to Sisters will remain. It will be a little bit different if you're on the Parkway. How you get to that loop ramp, you'll actually have to cut off here, but it'll all be signed. It won't take any more time. There's no lights in there, but certainly, you know, a lot of work occurring on the north end of Bend.
At the EDCO meeting, I asked if the work that has to happen at that loop roundabout will impact traffic to Sisters. And I think I heard maybe for a week in terms of some repaving and stuff, but that would be about it.
Yeah, we have, we're redoing the deck on one of these bridges, and the Empire connection onto the Parkway may be closed for a month and things like that, but in those interim times, we'll have alternate routes there. And, you know, the other thing that's going to be big when you come into town, you'll have choices here, right? Certainly with the roundabout at Old Bend Redmond, if you wanted to get off at O.B. Riley and come into town, you know, that's going to be an alternate route now. And it's slated to get other improvements from the city of Bend, even a roundabout here at Empire and O.B. Riley at some point. You'd be able to, if you wanted to, take Roble roundabout and come over here and take an on-ramp onto the new Parkway without having to wait as long here, because that light won't take as long since it's not Highway 97. So you'll, instead of waiting there at Empire, if you want to get on the Parkway from Sisters, you know, and go south into Bend, you'll have choices. And like I said, 20 stuff is supposed to be done here by October, and 97 by the end of 2024. It's a lot of work, so, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces, but we're nothing at this point would make me change those dates.
Any questions or comments?
How are the costs these days?
Yeah, they're terrible.
Okay.
It's just I mean, there's just a lot of different factors, right? But it's 20 to 30% increases. And now, you know, we're over some of the material price increases that we've seen, you know, whether it's oil, steel, some of those. And now it's the market conditions of the labor force is not adequate to do all the work across the state from a private and public. And so we're starting to see prices increase just based on a lack of labor workforce, operators, and things like that. So certainly these projects already awarded funds, but that's a risk as we go to bid locus. We've been pretty fortunate in Central Oregon because we have, Markham and Sons has done Ward Hamby roundabout. They're centered out of Redmond. They're doing 2 of these roundabouts. You know, Knife River has been competitive, and certainly we have some other High Desert Aggregate and some other players as well. K&E now has an office here. So we feel pretty good about these local projects, but certainly as a statewide level, we're really seeing the impact.
Okay, everybody's good?
Impressive.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
All right,
That's
thank
a lot
you.
of work.
Yeah.
Good luck. The next item on the agenda is our review of city goals. Do we want to move that to, or do you think you can get it done?
I think we can squeeze through it if you guys don't mind.
All right, just to let the audience know, we might be 5 to 7 minutes late on our city council meeting because we will take a small break. Go ahead, Joe, thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is just kind of a brief update prior to our council goal setting session that is slated for next week. And, you know, we had this review back in October, and not too many things have changed. You know, I'm not a subject matter expert on all of them, so, you know, I can field questions to the best of my knowledge. The color coding is also pretty straightforward. I just want to take note to the only red item on there, and that lies in the URA fund, and that's regarding the Adams Avenue Streetscape construction project and pursuing funding for that. Now, if you remember, in prior discussions, we've done all of the due diligence to acquire a loan for the Urban Renewal Agency. But, you know, just being mindful of, as Bob was saying, the construction cost is just, it's a big dollar amount, and it's more than we have budgeted in our plan. And so at this point, we are just kind of trying to be thoughtful of that and tabling that for now, not thinking that that will not happen. But just trying to be mindful of the economic environment and just the overall cost of the project. Some other options there that are still available are kind of maybe bundling that financing with some other financing, potentially with projects that we'll do in the water and wastewater systems with the updated master plans and things of that nature. So we're kind of shoving that for now. Not that it's not important, but it's just not a prudent time to do that financing for that project.
And just so everybody knows, that'll be up to us if we decide to put some new strategy into this next year's goals, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have any questions? You know, we've had this for a while, you know, we get our packets early, and if there's any particular goals that you want to ask about, now's the time. We're not going to go line by line on this thing. So anybody has any questions?
I do have one.
Okay.
I was wondering or concerned about the suggestion of delaying or not doing the Adam Street improvements. So I was,
Yeah, that's what he was just commenting.
Yeah, that's what, yep.
oh, did I miss that? I must have been.
Oh, yeah, it's a project that is just exceeded kind of our estimated costs. And we currently don't have the financing for that now.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that's just one of the things we're just trying to be mindful of the environment. And, you know, the other thing of that is if we did go to public borrowing, you know, with the economic environment, we could actually get more value with a lower interest rate based on those bond rates, because people tend to go towards those municipal bonds as the stock market is a little bit less predictable.
Well, and when we have our work session to deal with this, I think next week.
Yeah.
There'll be an opportunity to modify, change, and add goals and take goals out, because some of these are going to come out because they've been done.
Absolutely.
And,
yep.
Anything in green for the benefit of the audience are goals that basically are substantially completed or completed. And one of the things that I'm sure we'll talk about is the red one and where we go with that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to the staff here. I mean, for a staff of 15 people to get a lot of these goals completed, if not, you know, thoroughly in process, above and beyond their current workloads is really commendable. So that largely, you know, lies within the city manager, community development, and public works department. So that's a lot for those folks to do. And it's only February.
Well, we've been, 6 months without a city manager now, right?
Yeah, we have.
We're going to get one soon, though.
We hope.
The word is out. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
Not on that.
All right. We're gonna. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna close the workshop. We're gonna take like a 7-minute break and start at 6. All right. I'd like to call to order the February 8th, 2023 regular city council meeting. It's 6:35 p.m. for the record. And the first thing we're going to do is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Roll call, Carrie, please.
Mayor Preden?
I'm here.
Council President Blum?
Here.
Councilor Letts?
Here.
Councilor Ross?
Present.
Councilor Cobb?
Here.
All right, thank you very much. Next item up is the approval of the agenda.
I would move approval of the agenda.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No dissension, great. Next up is visitor communication. I understand we have some.
Correct. So the first one up is Zena Kuzma. I apologize if I'm not doing names right. If you could come up to the podium and speak directly into the microphone, it does move if you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
And just to note, we kind of limit everybody to about 3 minutes so we can get everybody in tonight. So
Okay.
thank you so much. I'll be watching the clock and I'll kind of,
Okay.
just kind of
thank you.
watch me if you don't mind. Thank
Thanks
you.
for letting me speak. Yes, you said my name correctly. Thank you. I'm just going to read the letter I have on record that I submitted.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm a resident of Sisters. I moved here in 2017, 2018, the nick of time of the pandemic. And I escaped Bend. I also escaped other places that were seeing too much activity and not regulated. One was Sedona, Arizona, Flagstaff, okay, and also Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And I have to tell you, this has been a pattern. When I moved to a nice rural community, it seems like if there's an airport, scenery, a casino, or a ski resort, this appears to be happening. Okay, and I'm concerned because it is a pattern, and that's why I'm here. I'm here because of short-term rentals. Okay. And it was a problem in Bend, and I see that it can be a problem here if we don't get ahead of it, and we need to be proactive. So I wrote this letter. Please be aware that short-term rentals pose a problem to our community and voter representation. They are essentially commercial entities in a residential zone. There's deliberate targeting underway by investors out of state on our area. I will provide websites, which I have and I'll give to you, that target this area. And these are by investors who do not know who we are. They don't even know where we are on the map, okay? And so the website will carry you through how to target our town. After living in many rural small towns with a view, a ski resort, or a casino near an airport, I've experienced this formula. There seems to be a formula, and we are targeted for what they call a gold rush, an Airbnb gold rush. This is not about growth, but perhaps about greed. The workers we desperately need to run our healthcare and our schools and emergency services should not be priced out of a market for investor interest and solely for the tourism industry. We have hotels not filled currently to capacity and houseless now in our forests. An abandoned RV in the forest costs $7,000 to $10,000 to remove. The fire danger costs more. Insurance does go up when there are fires. Developments, currently we have one, offering $400 to $500 a square foot is not supportive of community values. It's not even a corollary to the median household income of $94,000. The voter base gets eroded by short-term rental owners and second home owners that do not vote here. Local government will become irrelevant. We need to address this now. I believe the timing is right now. We are not Bend. Please let's be proactive, pro-community, pro-voter with community-based values. Embrace our community by limiting investment interests in making our residential spaces, in not making our residential spaces commercial. No more short-term rentals. There should be monitored and maybe driven out. They invite a drive-by hedge fund economy, not about community. And I want to thank you all here, and please represent the people who voted for you, because we live here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just interject, if you have written that you're reading, if you'd like to give me a copy of it, that would be great.
I think it's on file.
It is, if you don't mind, it would be great.
Oh, I'll give you, I was gonna take out the one.
All right.
Here are the copies of the websites. And you too can invest in your own town without knowing where it is. The website will tell you how.
Thank you very much.
The next is Sharon Booth.
I live at 69453 Lasso, yes, it's in the county, but, you know, Sisters is our community, and, you know, we're here all the time to shop or receive services, interact with all the business in Sisters, and experience the joys of the traffic. But really what I wanted to say, my biggest concerns have to do with the excessively rapid rate of growth in Sisters in terms of housing and to some extent business, but the housing is the greater thing because of all the consequences of that, one of which is loss of wildlife habitat and the density of the new developments of building homes. I don't have a big speech prepared, but those are my two concerns, are rapid development and loss of wildlife habitat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have more, right?
We do. Mark Dickens?
Hi, my name is Mark Dickens. I live at 133 East Black Crater Avenue here in town. I've been here several times to comment, and I appreciate the opportunity. I was here back in November, and I spoke in front of the Planning Commission meeting and recited some numbers that I think the City Council should really start paying attention to. According to the 2020 census data, there was 1,661 dwelling units in the City of Sisters that were reported. Of those, it was reported that 319 were not occupied full-time. Of that number, there's roughly 100 that operate with an STR license, and there's likely, very likely, much more beyond that. So what I'd like the city to really start paying attention to and focusing is how can we best utilize what we have already without proving more development and more sprawl. We need to think about how to create some incentives, some tax breaks or something, and find out how do we get these houses back online, whether they need to be subsidized with some tax breaks or, look at this phasing out of the STRs. You're just not going to build your way out of this. Every time we approve a development, we're years down the road before these houses get built, and then what do you know? They finally go up, and now the price has gone up 50% or more. There's really some dangerous indicators here that are going on, and here's another statistic. 2021, 25% of all residential properties nationwide were purchased by institutional or private investors. The figures for 2022 haven't been reported yet, but I'm willing to bet they're going to be just as high. So you're going to hear a lot here in the coming weeks, months. We're trying to get a group together, citizens, to kind of discuss these issues. I really hope the city will kind of look at their policies and look at the consequences and what sometimes, comes back later and says, unforeseen consequences. I think we need to really look at the reality of what's happening. And I've said this many times, do we want to be a community or do we want to turn into a little resort town like Sun River where you don't know your neighbors and, you can't afford to hire a new teacher because they can't afford to find housing in this town. There's a couple little things I want to leave you with here. There's a great quote by the policymaker. The gentleman's name was Frank Buckman. He said, "There is enough in this world for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed." And when I see these out-of-state, out-of-town developers come in here, I just cringe because I just see the town being exploited. And I worked in this industry. When I was 12 years old, I was sitting in at planning commission meetings and design review boards with my father, who was an architect in the Bay Area. So I've spent decades around this business. I've been involved in land development and construction and running commercial and retail projects in dozens of states. So I've got a lot of perspective on this stuff and a lot of insight, and I've lived in other towns and I can see what's happening here in Sisters, and I'm really concerned. So thank you for allowing us. We will be talking to you and look forward to trying to come up with some very constructive solutions to these very pressing issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Monica Thomasy.
Hi, I'm Monica Thomasy. I live here in Sisters on First Street, and I am a wildlife biologist. And I'm talking to you now because I'm very concerned about the loss of wildlife habitat in and around Sisters. This area is in winter range. And as you may know, the state of Oregon requires every county to have a wildlife winter range minimum number of acres or proportionally number of acres per county. And it's pretty common knowledge that Deschutes County is losing it rapidly. So last year, Deschutes County commissioners decided not to do the wildlife habitat winter range map, which was actually supposed to be done last year. They're doing it this year. And we're probably going to see another decline. And the reason is largely development. It's the fastest growing county in the state. And this impacts not just the deer and elk, but it impacts all wildlife. The other thing I would bring to your attention is there is a bird called the pinyon jay that is a species of concern. And if we don't get a handle on that one, we'll be paying a lot more attention to it than you thought you would be. So there's a lot of sprawl, as you know, that's not only an eyesore, but it's impacting wildlife. And we're losing a lot of trees in town. Just my neighbor's lot just lost 10 large ponderosa pine in 48 hours because somebody took the rental off and is going to build 2 short-term rentals on the one lot. Don't know who they are. They probably don't live here, but there's no trees there now, and there used to be 10. So I would like to ask that we take a pause and at least wait until the winter range wildlife habitat maps are done, which the Deschutes County Commissioners are making sure happens. And let's take a look at what's left at this point before there's any more sprawl. And the last thing I'll say is there's a lot of communication lately in social media and the Nugget and Nextdoor and Facebook and so on. And people are pretty outraged about what's happening. And I don't fault you because this is the new team, but you're the leaders now, and I'm looking to you to try to shift the direction and not let the greedy kill the goose that laid the golden egg here in Sisters. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kathy Russell.
Kathy, is that a C or a K, so I can write it down accurately?
It's a C.
Thank you.
So I'm Kathy Russell, and I live 1006 West Collier Glacier Drive. And I'm going to read mine because I need to stay focused, and it's really easy to get off on a rant if you don't. So I'm here to address the proposed rezoning of the property on North Trinity. The parcels most concerning are the 5.6 acres to be zoned MFR. I took the time to speak directly to a key property owner, and I understand the intended use, and for the most part, support their vision. That being said, what is troubling is that if for some reason the proposal with NHA and the hope for the other parcel fails to materialize, the community would have 5.6 acres zoned for MFR with the real possibility for 280 units to be built. This would be disastrous for our neighborhood. somehow, some way, there needs to be a contingency in place to protect the neighborhood from this happening. Right now, it feels like you're rolling the dice at the expense of the community. So what I'm basically saying is if you change it to MFR, and if for some reason the deal with the NHA, and which is, my understanding is one parcel, and the other parcel, I think the church is looking at expanding or further use of church, to use it for their church. If something would happen, that property is already zoned multifamily. And if it got sold, then those units could go in. And at 5.6 acres, that's 280 units if they use the minor conditional use, MCU, right? So it just seems like there should be something in place that if that intention does not come through, that property is not left multifamily and we end up with 280 units there, because that neighborhood really cannot afford and cannot support that many more people and that many cars. So that's basically what I was trying to say. And then on another note, I believe some town hall meetings need to occur so that feedback can be given on the current direction we are heading. Codes addressing short-term rentals, open space, parking, and traffic patterns need to be reviewed and changed where necessary to align with the comprehensive plan. Therefore, I'm asking for a moratorium to be placed on new residential developments in SRTs to allow for this to happen. People are frustrated, confused, and angry. Dialogue needs to happen before irreversible damage is done. Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Michael?
All right.
I gotta say, the real issue they're speaking about is there should be global population control, and very concerned with a country empire that affects breaking up cultures and communities. So there's too much immigration when a lot of people would rather be where they were born to be in the first place. Speaking here 2 weeks ago, having a different regard to who should be noticed as in a shell. I'm very aware I'm speaking to the untouchables. Their feeling being prominently self-servient. The term untouchable in India is for the lowest caste. In this society, they are the insulated with intellect, talent, creativity, and gather knowledge of the more safe proportions of their brains. Your norm, including those who work in your world of psychology and are, except rare exceptions, feeders on the vulnerable, sucking them in. That's one of the things narcissism does, operating individually or as a group, small or large. Perhaps the best tool you have is listening, with the well-accepted pretense it's humane. Someone I heard on the radio station last week, a do-gooder volunteer for the annual homeless population count, said what she most got out of it was listening to the homeless people's stories. Not surprising to me, she had a master's degree in psychology in one form or another. A man, both from Willamette Valley, in a tone and words of being more aware, said that he got more out of it than the homeless did, therefore now wanted to get involved in ways that benefit their situation. Of course, this could be good lip service. I say this with a lot of experience, including at the homeless leadership meeting in Bend. Listening to me through the years has often served a primary use, to serve totalitarian and authoritarian malignant tumor made up of cancer cell. Cancer is any growth disconnected, out of balance, then dominating what is truly whole. What is truly whole. It can eat anything out of me, assimilating what it can into pernicious, evil growth, taking ownership. I despise this cancer. Yes, you have great brains and great hearts. I have neither. My brain is tortured by what's occurring, local and global, and you people call this mental illness. Also, the left side of my chest is thrown into cardiac, unrhythmical chaos and or feels it is being pierced by needles, sometimes endlessly, and or by a large piercing blow or blows, and or feels it's been or being canceled by some myopathy disease. And I ask, is this also mental illness? How about losing use of my left or both arms, or have little or no feeling in my legs? I am still waiting for a short appointment with your city resident, the reason why I was ever here. And you being in the position to work for the public interest, wouldn't it be good for your ego, having given up searching for a real conscience out there, for one of you to call Deschutes County Health Services to inform them in a more dignified semantics, of course, to get their authoritarian, totalitarian power out of my face and finally do their lying mission statement and ask, why in hell would you not let him see a psychiatrist? Perhaps you could also admit how you can now see why I call this hell. P.S. As you know, yes, a psychiatrist, being a doctor, is educated in the full anatomy. This includes an organ that pumps blood, and if it stops, all else does. Besides, any psychiatrist with a crumb of real conscience would fully understand the wicked effect you and your people have on me, and it would make demanding sense to find one, a psychiatrist, on my level. So I plead to your self-identity in public interest, or keep laying your bets on your collective crucible, because it's like me singularly taking on this Kansas City Chiefs as I eventually, actually very quickly, become quadriplegic and in a bad condition, which any unblinded psychiatry might already see.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any further?
That's all we have.
I'm sorry?
That is all we have.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for everybody for speaking. We appreciate it. All right, next up is a consent agenda. We need a motion in a second.
Move approval of the consent agenda?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye. I said aye too, sorry. Sorry, I was a little slow on the uptake. All right, on to council business. Resolution 2023-02, Deschutes County Road Agency, IGA. Chris? This is a fun one. We're gonna get a report from you. This is not a public.
It's on public hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Well, good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. My name's Chris Doty. I'm the Road Department Director for Deschutes County. I want to thank you for hearing from me tonight, and thanks to staff, Carrie and Paul back there for helping coordinate this for the county. And what we're asking for is a resolution in support of creating an intergovernmental entity. This is not something, we do that frequently. We'll get into the backstory and the details here. Deschutes County receives two forms primarily of federal funding. One is payment in lieu of taxes. That's my left hand. The other is Secure Rural Schools. Payment in lieu of taxes, or PILT, is a federal payment to counties who have a lot of federal land, and the purpose of that payment is to offset the impact of the fact that you can't tax federal land. So there's a lot of land that's untaxed. The federal government came up with this program to then send counties pennies on the dollar to kind of offset the impact of that.
Let's be clear, it's the county that can't impose a tax on the federal lands, but the feds sure do, right? Okay.
Duly noted, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
SRS, on the other hand, is a federal payment to counties and school districts to offset the loss in timber revenue. Historically, timber revenue off of federal lands has paid for county road departments and road maintenance activities, as well as funding for local schools. And whereas timber revenue has been kind of depleted based on environmental and other concerns and considerations, the SRS program was enacted by the federal government to also kind of offset that loss of revenue, which had been a stream in place since the early 1900s. So in a unique kind of commingling of funding methodologies between PILT and SRS, the way it is set up right now is that, especially for counties with conditions similar to Deschutes, PILT is X and SRS is Y. SRS is then debited from the maximum amount that the county can receive in PILT. And so it basically has the effect of rendering SRS, inactive. We're not getting it. We're getting it, but we're losing out on what we receive in PILT. And again, that's how the feds have kind of set up the methodologies for these two distinct programs. Recognizing that, in 2021, the legislature passed House Bill 2174. And what that does is it allows counties to create an intergovernmental entity such that instead of directly receiving Secure Rural Schools funding, we can direct that to an intergovernmental entity such that now it is no longer debited from PILT. So we're able to achieve our maximum PILT payment. We're able to slide in the SRS revenue into our programming, but receive through this intergovernmental entity, and such that it's not debited anymore. Deschutes County is in the process of creating this intergovernmental entity. It's created when two local governments form an intergovernmental agreement, and this is all stipulated in state statute. Due to the fact that the geographical boundary of this entity, includes the entire county, which also includes cities, state statute requires that the counties go to the cities and obtain their approval, basically, of what we're doing. The majority of the cities located within the county, and that's why we're here tonight, to ask that favor, that you pass this resolution in support of this intergovernmental entity. As attached to that, how we're doing that is through an intergovernmental agreement between Deschutes County, the Board of County Commissioners, and also the Deschutes County 911 Service District. Kind of an odd pairing, but that's just basically the easiest path forward to create this entity, having two local governments create this IGA. And of course, the Board of County Commissioners is the board for both entities. So it really, it's hitting the easy button to comply with that House Bill 2174 option to create this output. So with that, the intergovernmental entity is not going to affect the city at all. It's basically, as noted in your packet, it's this agreement. It will basically be a fund within the county budget, separate from, typical county elements. The SRS money will slide into that from the state via the federal government. And when the state reports what Deschutes County receives to the feds, it will not reflect anything in form of SRS, such that we'll be able to receive that full PILT payment. So, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not really a question. It's a possible typo or absence, and it's on the DC number 2023-131. So in the first paragraph, we mentioned that Deschutes County is, and it's followed by parentheses, quotes, county, so that you can use just county in the rest of the thing. But then in that same paragraph, when we mentioned Deschutes County 911 Service District, there's not paren quotes district.
Sure.
And it is used on page 3, the term district.
Term district, sure, yeah.
So I don't know if you want, I just wrote it down.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. You have a keen eye.
Okay.
I did, Carrie was kind enough to kind of pass on your
Great.
observation there. I shared that with county council.
Okay.
He felt that the two parties in the IGA were distinctly described enough that district meant the 911 district, and county, obviously was described separately. So the agreement is sufficient, but appreciate, that set of eyes on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's considered, what's the term for a minor misspelling?
Scrivener's error.
Scribner's
error,
Yeah,
okay.
those old Scribners,
So-
yeah.
But thanks for checking it out.
Unscribbling it.
You have a question?
Yes, I was it looks like the legislature has looked at this issue and said, we have figured out a workaround. Is there any sense that the feds are gonna say, oh, the state's doing this workaround and we're ending up paying more than we should and balk at this, or do we have to kind of wait and see?
Yeah. Other states have enacted this.
Okay.
And it doesn't happen everywhere. It happens where you have a lot of federal land in the county. It happens where that federal land also historically grew a lot of trees and there was a timber harvest. So it's not, it's something that most counties would probably encounter this unique methodology overlap to where, you're losing dollar for dollar when these two programs, arrive at that methodology. But that is kind of a concern because it is certainly creating something and pulling in funds that aren't pulled in today, where those come from.
Are there other counties that are looking at doing the same thing?
Yeah, I believe Jefferson County has already done this. Klamath County has as well.
Thank you.
I know that when I worked in Klamath County in the 70s and the timber industry collapsed down in there, where Housing pulled out, the loss to the district in terms of rural schools was significant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also know that it's a very convoluted method to get the money out of the feds. I applaud your creativeness.
Yes, thank you. It was an idea of a state legislator that kind of had that same observation.
Jennifer, anything?
I'm out of curiosity, what are these funds earmarked for anything specific? Can you?
Oh, thank you. Great question.
Yes.
So currently I can report how payment in lieu of taxes are allocated to the county. It's a combination between the road department, between the natural resources department for things like Project Wildfire and other natural resource related expenses, and then also the general fund has historically received PILT. New money coming in will be distributed at the board's discretion, but that's a report on how PILT is currently allocated out.
Okay, so it's not like, it doesn't earmark things specifically like payroll or capital or anything like that? It's
Correct, it's
more
for general
discretionary?
government purposes.
Or anything else? My comment is this. We're strong partners with Deschutes County. We do a lot of regional stuff with you, and I think that this is a very creative thing to do, and I think that I see no reason why the City of Sisters as a group should think anything other than smart idea, good job, and good luck with the new funds.
Yeah, great, thank you.
All right. Looks like we could use a
So when we
motion.
want to partner on a road project, they'll remember us, right?
Well, I don't know if you saw that little $1 million note on the roundabout out here, so yeah.
Yeah, that's
That was
what we're all
tongue in
about.
cheek
Well
too,
played.
like earlier, a little.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve and adopt Resolution 2023-02, the second one of the year.
All right. Does anybody have a second to go with that?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any final discussion on this resolution? Again, I could have said what I said now because it would have been effective, but I said it earlier. I think it's a great idea. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I'll be signing that later tonight, I think, that resolution. Other business. The first item on other business is discuss a letter of support for the White's Overlook Accessibility Enhancement Project. And Chris Calvin is supposed to,
I'm gonna start him.
You
off.
wanna start?
Yeah, I'm gonna start it off real quickly. Chris is gonna come up.
come on up, Chris.
Introduce himself. But this is a project that Chris brought to our attention early last week, and it's a proposed project to replace some of the masonry wall at the White's Creek Overlook, which allows for some wheelchair-bound visitors to experience the views. It will include installation of a wheelchair-compatible picnic tables and signage. And basically what they're asking for is a letter of support from the city. So what we're looking for tonight is a head nod for probably myself and Chris to write the letter of support and have the mayor sign. Because I believe this grant is due February 15th? 28th, excuse me, but it was a little tight with our 22nd meeting. So we're bringing it to you tonight. So Chris is here to answer any questions for you about the project. And, yeah.
I'm Mark Thompson. I'm on the board with STA, and STA is working to try and obtain a grant from Central Oregon Visitors Association.
Mark, can I have you step up to the mic? I'm sorry, it won't catch on the.
Future fund, so if we can get this grant, this project that we want to make the overlook accessible to those that are using a wheelchair or of shorter stature, little children, et cetera, that can see over this wall. We think it was a design oversight when they first built it, and this will greatly improve the access and the use of this piece of beautiful property we have out there that has an iconic view of our Sisters Mountains and the wild and scenic river below. So the grant requires that we have letters of support. We couldn't think of a better group to give us a letter of support than the City of Sisters. So we're requesting that letter of support from y'all, if we could.
All right, thank you. Questions? Go ahead.
I wanted to say that I have appreciated your work out there. That's one of the quick locations when I have company that I can take them out to show them how quickly you can get outside Sisters and see the grandeur of the wild environment that we have, and never gave a thought to if I had been in a wheelchair. And now I see the pictures and I say, wow, that was really something that nobody went from a seated position when that wall was put up. So I think this is wonderful. My question was, I didn't hear in the proposal who you are applying the grant money from. From whom?
COVA, Central Oregon Visitors Association.
Oh,
It's called the
COVA.
Future
Oh, okay. I just,
It comes from room taxes.
right.
That are applied on a yearly basis.
That's what they're for. That's the great purpose. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
My comment is just, I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it's beautifully designed, with
Thanks
the
to Chris.
breaks. Yeah, it's beautiful, and I can't wait to go visit it myself.
Good, fantastic,
done.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
It is one of only 2 accessible trails in the City of Sisters, the other one going from the Sisters High School out to Tollgate. And I think, given the age and where we're at in the City of Sisters, probably a lot of us are going to wish we had more accessible trails in the future.
Or at least one of those little scooters.
There you go.
I'm looking forward to that.
My only comment is that when I first went up to the overlook many years ago, not that many, but once it had been improved, my first thought was, how do you see over this wall? and then I went up there one day and there were some folks up there with some 4 or 5-year-old kids. Guess where they were?
Standing on the wall.
Standing on the wall.
Right.
And so I think that this is a really smart move. And I also appreciate the better bathrooms.
Perfect, we appreciate that.
Yeah, ever since I started going there, that was been a frustration for me, and I noticed it right away, but that's because I was in the trail business for a long time, so as a ranger, so I'm really excited that you're taking this on because it's just everybody went to a lot of effort to make it accessible, the trail very accessible to a lot of different groups, and then you get to the end and you can't.
Right. I've
Laughing because it's sad, but I'm excited that you're taking this on. I really appreciate it.
I've often looked at it as a barrier-free trail with a barrier again.
At
So
the
we
end.
want to remove that barrier.
All right, and I'll make the final comment. This is a terrible idea. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Look, we've been a partner with STA as a city for a long time. We really appreciate all the stuff that you guys do. This is a no-brainer. I'll sign it as soon as the letter, I'll sign it for all of us as soon as the letter is written. So just let us know when that's done. I know you guys will work together or whatever. But really, thanks for all the work you guys do in the community. It's 99% good.
Good.
There's always that 1%. I gotta leave that room open just in case, but no, you guys do really good work. I've known you a long time, Chris, so thanks for what you do. Appreciate your passion for the community. It's very good.
And don't wait until you need a letter of support to come and let us know what you're
Yeah.
up to. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay.
Yeah, and you never know. Partnering opportunities are always out there. So if you got a good one, let us know.
Will do. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a head nod, I think,
Thanks, I had none.
without even the nodding part. All right, are we on to staff comments?
Yeah.
Let's go. I had a list of the way I wanted to do it. Paul, I wanted to do you first. If anybody wants to ask him about transportation stuff, now's the time.
keeps the man going places. Man on the go.
Glad to see those guys. I gotta have a conversation with them.
Yeah,
Setting the table for good stuff.
there you
That's
go.
what we're doing. Just a couple quick updates. We got our application in for the Community Wildfire Mitigation Grant through the State Fire Marshal's Office, and that is for fuel reduction work at the wastewater treatment plant as well as over on Edgington Road. That 10 acre piece. The grant amount is a little less than $100,000. And we should hear back hopefully within the next 45 days as those come in. So I'm not sure how many they got through that grant program, but we're keeping our fingers crossed there. And then we have a water line project out for bid. We're actually getting bids in tomorrow. This is for the Best Western water line connection that's connecting the new industrial park with a 12-inch line that runs around behind Best Western. So make a key east-west connection, and that line actually goes, or will continue to go across Highway 20, up Railway, and then into the village of Cold Springs and into McKenzie Meadows as well. So kind of create that northern loop for us. And it's the last little segment that we need to make it happen. So looking forward to getting competitive bids. What we're hearing out there is sounding better, but we'll find out, and we will bring you hopefully a contract to approve at the end of the month. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, that's all I had. If there's any other questions?
Oh, hold on a second. You want to give us an update on the roundabout? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So I'm constantly learning, so the newbie here. But I noticed when I was last out at Black Butte, as you drive into Black Butte, you come off of 20 and then you drive into Black Butte. And as you come around, there is just massive juniper growth and a bunch of wreckage in there. So does Sisters with our fire department have anything to do with helping out with that, to remove juniper or is that not in our bugaloo?
I do not know. That would be a good question for
Chief Johnson.
Chief Johnson.
Yeah, probably Chief Johnson. Yeah, we can look into that and let you know. Yeah.
Front page of the Nugget, junipers being cut down. So interesting. Anybody else have anything for Paul? Good work as always, man.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Scott? Thank you, guys.
Good evening, everyone. Scott Woodford. Just some things that are going on. I think some of these have been touched on already tonight, but I'll just reiterate them. The Heavenly Acres rezone is going to go to Planning Commission next week. It is a legislative rezone, so there aren't quite the restrictions on ex parte communication when you have a legislative rezone, as opposed to a quasi judicial, because those legislative things are more of community-wide importance. So the thinking is that everybody could potentially have a conflict or whatnot, but there's those rules are just not as as restrictive as they are on other things. But as far as
Scott, I'm sorry, before you move on, I just wanted to, can you explain the legislative difference between, just explain that to us?
Sure. Yeah, there's different types of applications that we have. A legislative application includes things like rezoning of property across the whole community, or text amendments that affect multiple properties across zones, as opposed to a quasi judicial, which is a site-specific request.
Okay.
That has different parameters in terms of how we want the hearing bodies to hear the information.
Gotcha.
For my own clarification, then, we look at this as a legislative because there are multiple tax lots involved and multiple entities involved in the whatever the current zoning is, which I can't remember.
Urban area reserve.
Yeah, EIR, yeah.
In addition to some text amendments for the public facilities zone district, which also apply to zone districts scattered throughout the city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. One more, go ahead.
You were good at whipping you back and
No,
forth.
I'm just
So-
trying to run the meeting, that's all.
So we are looking at rezoning all of the Heavenly Acres property, not just the piece of Heavenly Acres property that is involved in the potential housing project.
That is correct.
And we are doing a blanket rezone, or are different parcels being projected to be zoned different things?
The majority of the parcels are to be proposed to be rezoned to public facility, and 2 parcels are proposed to be rezoned to multifamily residential.
Public, and why some public facility and some
So
family?
we proposed, when we talked about cleaning up the urban area reserve zoning, the next question becomes, okay, what do they go to? And we have 7, 8, 10 different zone districts. So we tried to pick out the several that we thought were the most appropriate for the area, and we actually talked to the property owners about which ones they preferred and which ones made most sense. So we involved the property owners in that discussion. 2 of them registered an interest in multifamily. The rest of them said they were fine with public facility.
Good.
All of them, with the text amendments, would accommodate the existing uses out there.
So by the latitude we have on this as opposed to a site-specific, does that mean that we theoretically could listen or attend the planning commission meeting on it? Or we should still avoid that?
I think you should still probably avoid that, but if somebody comes and speaks to you about it, it's not as sensitive as it is quasi judicial, where you want to limit that ex parte or avoid it if you can at all possible. If at all possible, avoid it. Or if because it's a small town, sometimes it's unavoidable to disclose it at the public hearing.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
And just to clarify one more time, we are going through this process because the zoning in that area is incorrect.
It's outdated, it's obsolete, basically. It was only meant to be a holding zone until such time that city services were available to the site, and then it would be rezoned to something else. And for various reasons, that did not occur. So we're taking the opportunity to clean that up.
Isn't that the same zone that the Forest Service property was at the time, before it was rezoned?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Susan, sorry. I didn't forget about you.
Okay. So on the, you're changing, you said 5 different plots to 2 of them are at multifamily residential and 3 are public facility, is that correct?
No, the other way around. I think 5 are proposed to go to public facility, and 2 are proposed to go to multifamily residential.
Okay, and so when we say public facility, that can be parks eventually?
Yes, that's correct. So I don't want to get too deep into it right now because it will come before you, and it's still,
Right.
we weren't planning on hearing it tonight. Just wanted to give you the update. But if you have any questions on it, go ahead and call me directly. I can certainly fill you in on anything you want.
Or if members of the public have questions on it.
Exactly. Yes. The Parks Master Plan is set to go to council for its hearing on the 22nd. Yeah, stop your beating heart there. Be still your beating heart.
I remember it was supposed to be October, or then it went November.
We didn't forget about it.
No, we got busy, and it's, I'm not getting on you.
It does, yes, no, I understand. It's good to get it to its conclusion. The Affordable Housing Agreement is also slated to come back on the 22nd for hopefully your review and approval. So a couple other items of kind of larger importance. We did get the appeal on the Sunset Meadows. And so that is a de novo hearing, which means de novo is if you're not familiar with the term, it's Latin for start anew. So it's basically as if the process, it's not completely starting new, but it's starting fresh. And you saw the emails coming from Matt about kind of the next steps and what's considered to be, ex parte and not ex parte in terms of things. I would just say, kind of take a deep breath. We'll once the meeting The meeting has been scheduled for the 28th. We will get you a packet the week before with all the information. There'll be staff presentation, applicant presentation, public testimony again will be taken. So there'll be plenty of opportunity to review the record and to be able to make your decision. So don't want to get too deep into that as well, unless you, if you do, again, if you have any specific questions.
I just want to clarify that it's the 28th. It's going to be a special meeting that we have scheduled. And just for everybody's benefit, that's the only subject we're going to do that day. So we're going to try and tackle it on that special meeting date. Fair enough?
Is that the Sunset Meadows thing?
It is, Sunset Meadows.
And a request, I know that we have a period of time when you get stuff to us, but given the complexity of the packet, having looked at the material that was sent before and all the other material, from my own perspective, the sooner the better for me. Not to put pressure on you, but I really want to be able to go through that carefully. And believe me, as a non-planner, it's like read for an hour, take a nap. Read for an hour, take a nap. So I have to have lots of hours in order to get it in because I got those naps in between.
And a lot of the material is already online.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to read it that way.
If you have any requests for hard copies, please let us know. We can print materials out for you.
Hate to waste the paper, but I think it's important.
Yeah.
Request double-sided.
Why don't you raise your hand if you want a hard copy?
I would like a hard copy of the decision or what am I trying to say? Where the staff has made
The findings?
the findings.
Yeah, that's really what I
The word
need.
I'm looking
Okay.
for. Yeah.
Okay.
Where so I can, okay.
Findings.
All the submitted written testimony is in the record on our project website too. Is that?
Right, and I can look at it on
can look that
the
up, yeah.
website.
That'll save some paper. That's fine with me too. Really, it's the findings and the conditions.
Right.
Okay.
And I'd like that too, double-sided.
I don't need it myself. I can do electronic, so I think you got 3.
Okay, great.
No reason to waste the paper.
And I'm going to be out of town, so I'll be on.
Just briefly in regards to the space age application, we do have a active application. I know there's a lot of chatter in the community. It's potential that this, could eventually make its way to you again, similar to Sunset Meadows. So to the extent that you can avoid the direct communication, the better. Please direct them to staff for comments and questions and alert them that there's plenty of ways to share their comments, both in the written form and if there are public hearings on that.
Okay, and on,
Yeah.
on that, from Sue Stafford's nice reporting, she made this comment that the planning commission or the city council can decide to call it up. So when you're saying we're hearing input from citizens, can we also like 2 or 3, no? But am I saying something wrong?
No, I hit the microphone with my paper.
If 2 of us want, whoever wants to have the city relook at this, I thought I read somewhere that if 2 of the counselors want to have it looked at, they can also initiate that.
So currently it is a type 2 application, which means it's an administrative level review. There is a provision in the code that allows the community development director to refer to the planning commission. If I choose to do that, if the circumstances dictate that. And then the planning committee, in that case, the planning commission would review and render a decision, and that decision could be appealable or called up. Any decision by planning council could call that up. There are certain conditions that have to be met. I think at least 2, if at least 2 have to be able to agree to call it up.
Counselors.
Yeah. But that scenario is kind of far down the road at this point. Yeah, we're not even close. We don't have a complete application yet.
Okay.
So.
But I would like to stress again what you've already said, the ex parte communications. I've already been asked about it, and I just say, I don't know anything about it. I haven't seen the application. I don't have an opinion on it and won't have an opinion on it until the time is necessary. So I would just stress to all of us to be careful. We're a small town. People are going to ask us. We get it. We understand that part. We just have to be real smart about what we say back. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And just if you do happen to have that kind of communication, to disclose it at the time of a public hearing. It doesn't automatically, discount you from participating. It's whether that communication, it makes you incapable of rendering an objective decision.
Well, then,
But somebody can challenge you as well on that too.
Then I
So it's
have-
best just to avoid it if you can.
then I have to say, I have already said to somebody that I don't like the idea of having 16 pumps, at that site, personally. I
Okay.
said personally, I didn't say I was
Okay.
speaking for council.
So I would just kind of follow the mayor's guidance there and just.
Now you've said it again. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, you know what? It's okay. It's not the end of the world.
Okay,
If it comes down the road and it gets in front of us, just mention that. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily biased or anything like that, but it is good to disclose those things when they happen. That's all.
thank you.
And then just the final thing that I wanted to bring up is this idea that's kind of been germinating amongst the staff about potentially submitting a guest editorial to sort of kind of be a response to some of the community comments that we've heard over time about growth. And just to, from the standpoint of the city's listening, your input does have value and can make change, where the appropriate opportunities for that are to occur, and maybe to kind of give a little bit of, awareness or guidance on what some of the parameters are that we operate under in making our decisions. So I think we're just looking for a little bit of a head nod if you think that that's an appropriate thing to do, and who you would prefer to be from, if myself or mayor or who. Joe?
You're looking for a head nod about the little bit of outreach, excuse me.
Yeah, a little bit of outreach, exactly.
I think that's fine. I think that, we've had some internal conversations about possible ways to, better inform the public, and I think that that's one good way. The Nugget, thank you very much, is still around, and you know what I mean, is active in the community, and I think it's a good way to go. I don't think we need to do it on a regular basis necessarily, but when we have something like this, it's blown up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that.
And
It's actually encouraging.
I would agree, and I think that you heard a little bit of it tonight, and I've heard it from others that there's some, and it's in social media definitely, because I do follow it just so I can have a sense of the pulse. Occasionally, I want to just hit delete. I think it's helpful to have that, something like that happen, so that we're being as responsive as we can be. And without a city manager in the role, I think that we don't have that figurehead to kind of go out there and stand up and take the blows. So you guys decide who needs the black eye. No, I'm just teasing. I don't care who it comes from. I just think we need to do it.
It could be something like the mayor's corner or the councilor's corner or planning commission's corner or
Mind
something.
me interjecting?
Yeah,
Please.
go ahead.
So we had discussed that Scott would write the piece, or his department would write the piece. It's due very quickly, and that we could either, and then staff would kind of look through it, and then have, you can decide if you want it from the mayor or if it's from the planning department. But really, we're going to leave it in his department's hands to write, because it is so technical, and we want to get those technical pieces right, so they're not out incorrectly into the public.
I don't need to have any credit for it whatsoever. I totally trust staff to do that. Are we going to get a read of it ahead of time, or?
I don't know that you'll get an edit of it. It's due by Friday.
Okay.
So we're in tomorrow.
So what is it going to cover?
I think it's, this idea just kind of germinated this morning. So I haven't totally fleshed out, but, along the lines of kind of what I started off with, like the city, here's your concerns. Change, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a lot of talk about the comprehensive plan and bringing our code into compliance with that, but we just adopted our comprehensive plan, and how long it takes to kind of make changes to your code. So it takes time to bring those kinds of, bring your code into alignment with the vision that's in the comprehensive plan. How your public input can make a difference and how best to do that. How you can sign up for email updates, on things. It's only gets 725 words, so it's tough to really explain the details of things. And Sue, have done a great job in the paper and continues to do a great job of also helping to educate in terms of where decisions come from, and that they don't just come out of kind of a thin air and a vacuum. That
There will be an article coming Wednesday, again, explaining Oregon land use law.
Okay. Thank you.
You're going to make it interesting,
That will
right?
be,
Oh, absolutely.
that will be good, yeah.
Sorry, Sue. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, kind of along the gist of those themes, to be constructive but I think that there's kind of a information vacuum out there if we don't kind of respond and say that, hey, we're hearing you, and, here's the things we can do, and here's the things we may not be able to do as well, because of certain parameters that we're living under, like the state planning law.
If it's only 725 words, you really can't screw it up.
I think I already used 725.
Yeah, but can you
Just right
make it interesting enough that people will read the
I
whole
think,
thing and
honest-
get the gist?
That's the challenge.
That's
a
the
challenge.
hard part.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's not going to cover all the bases, but
And I would like it if it was, your name, but also somebody else's name, either the mayor or interim city manager. I would like it to be kind of more of a team effort. When we're not like, good luck, Scott. Shove you out there.
7 years ago, Scott sat down.
Well, hold on. Carrie said that it was going to be looked at by staff, not just, you guys were going to look at it, so.
Well, the names at the bottom.
Sure.
Correct.
Or,
We could put in council or the mayor.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And also just a kind of a little point that says, a lot of the development you're seeing now was planned, 5 and 10 years ago. And I think people that are new here don't know that.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else? Do you have anything else?
I think I took up more than my allotted time.
It's okay.
We
Hey.
will always.
And mine,
take
thanks,
extra
Scott.
time for you. Because he always brings us such good news.
It falls under the City of Sisters is growing up, and we're having more challenges, and it's okay. So
We're getting our wisdom teeth out.
Yeah.
What's that?
We're having our wisdom teeth taken out, so.
No, careful, you're opening up your.
Honestly.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay. Honestly, it's great that we have an engaged public. It's,
Yeah,
it's,
that cares.
I mean, we had more people tonight than we've had in quite a while, and it's good.
And they were respectful.
You're the only one left, but we want.
Spread the word.
Thank you, Kathy with a C, for being here. So
Yeah.
we do appreciate it. We want dialogue in chamber and outside of chambers. So, all right, thank you, Scott.
And I'll give Kathy credit. She's come to staff to actually understand the issues from our perspective. So I give her lots of credit for that.
Well, yeah, she was informed up here, so it was great. All right, Carrie.
My list.
How long's your list?
So excited.
I know. I've been waiting all night. I've been working through planning and logistics for the city manager interview, so those are moving along. If you're wondering, the application process is still open. There are applications that have been turned in, but still a long ways to go. So
When does the time close for
I
application?
want to say February 26th.
All right.
I think that's the right date.
Yep.
I think you guys all got the emails, but the budget meetings for Sue, because she doesn't want to miss them, May 23rd and 24th.
There you go.
We're on the agenda.
Don't hit her.
So those have been confirmed with the.
You want to see some real deep meetings? There you go, budget.
Last week, I interviewed with the Sustainable City Year group that is working with Explore Sisters. So that was a great interview. That was a really informed group of master's students, a couple of people. So I think they're getting a lot of good information. I gave them a couple more contacts, and I actually really enjoyed that experience. So I'm hopeful that Explore Sisters get some good documents out of that. The mayor and I also did attend the Explore Sisters board meeting last week, and I'll let him speak to that when he goes through. The working a lot on the affordable housing agreement. Scott mentioned the NHA agreement coming to you on February 22nd, as well as the county ARPA agreement is going to be coming to you at the same time. Those kind of ride together. It's been a lot of review and updates on those. And then just as a reminder, the joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners is on March 8th at 5 p.m. And that's what I have. It's on your calendar. It's been on your calendar for a while.
I have two calendars. I have a personal calendar and a city calendar. so-
Finally united mine. I got
can't-
too messed up.
Me too.
Google kills me, so I have no idea what I'm doing. But anyway, I'll double check that. All right. Anything else? Any questions for Carrie?
Yeah, just curious, was it the AAA kids or the 3 p.m.?
Pardon?
The folks you met from the university,
This is
AAA,
Louisville City.
were they Allied Arts and Architecture or were they 3 p.m.?
They were nonprofit. The nonprofit kids or students. They're not kids. They're probably 20. So they're the.
In what fields?
I don't know. They were just.
I was just curious because I know that we're working with both groups. so.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their necessarily their masters were in. We actually didn't go into that. They just work in the.
I think the first group was the architectural kids, and the second group is more
This group-
planning.
Yeah, this is a whole different group.
Yeah.
These guys are a completely different group than what's working with the schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a completely different program, different professor.
Okay.
Oh,
Everything.
yeah. I knew it was a different college. That's the reason I was asking.
Sounds good. Did you have anything for Carrie?
No.
Okay. All right. Who's that leave? Oh, Joe.
I won't be that lengthy in my
You're the-
presentation here.
First of all, let us know if you're doing financial or if you're doing.
This is both.
Interim city manager.
No interim updates today.
Okay.
Other than, I've got a formal plaque, I don't have the colorful one, so. I don't know, I kind of miss it, so maybe we'll remedy that next meeting. But anyway, we just can't seem to get away from audits, so we have a workman's comp audit from SAFE, which, as you well know, they administer our workman's comp program now instead of city county insurance that used to do it. And the reason why we probably have that audit is because we have a new relationship with them. So should be pretty easy. I've had one of these before, and we just get them a lot of our payroll information. They match things up. So shouldn't be too in depth, but famous last words. And then our annual audit, which has been going on for quite some time, I think they've been trying to tie some stuff up. We have an extension with the state auditor's office to the end of February. And I've been working with them actually a lot this week, just on, I think, some final items that they need. So that's been fun to kind of wipe off some of the cobwebs and see what the details of the information that I gave them 5 months ago. So.
Given how much time we work with them, you work with them, how do they ever get through cities like Salem and Portland?
Well, they take a lot of time, and they'll audit different departments because it's risk-based typically. So they won't go near the depth that they will with us because they can. It's easier. They have the scope, luckily.
Oh.
So it's very, the benefit to us is it's very thorough, right?
Right.
And it has been remote for the last few years, and my personal opinion is that might not be. Bless you. Yeah, it's easy for staff. It's easy for me. I can get them information because we have responsive staff very quickly. But I think it might behoove them to just be here and do a week of field work and not have to have a back and forth. And one of the other reasons, because maybe the lack of efficiency on their end, is they have to actually kind of take into consideration everything that's happened up until that report date. So if they file that report at the end of February, they've got to consider everything. So they're reading minutes and meetings up until that date and any other significant events that have occurred. So it's not in their best interest to do that either. So it's kind of a strange relationship, but again, we're always very responsive to them. So it's nothing on our end. It's just one of those things. So that's still ongoing. Some other good news. LGIP interest has gone up to 3.75%. I think last time I talked to you was 3.35. So that's huge for the amount of liquidity that we have. That's a huge interest boost to us, and what we'll be able to do with that money per each fund.
So the Bahamas is back on?
Right, yeah, that's right.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to talk to her after this meeting. No, I'm just kidding.
And then lastly, this has kind of been going on for a while, but we've been recruiting a utility technician position in our Public Works Department. We finally found someone and have an offer signed by them. His name is Jake Mirins. I believe that's the way to pronounce his last name. He'll be starting with us the end of the month on the 27th. So that'll be a good time to get him acclimated to the team, then do, spring cleanup and things of that nature. Our team's been really good at making up for that lost position. There's only 4 of them right now. I think 4, with Jackson, he'd be 5. So, yeah, it'll be a good addition. We'll
Get him in on that last day so he has the month of February.
That's right.
I've learned.
That's right, the 30 days, yeah. You start on the last day of the month, and you want to quit on the first day of the month, right?
That's right. I got you. Good. That's exciting.
You guys are learning. This is great,
It only took 5 years.
Oh, that's
I'm
all
in my 5th year, I'm sorry.
Unless you have any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, audit, love those audits.
Oh, yeah, that's fun stuff.
All right, so now we're on to mayor and councilor business. I'm gonna go last. Susan, do you wanna go first? What do you got going on?
I think I went through everything during the meeting.
Oh, okay,
Good.
Yeah, and we appreciate your notes from COIC.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, an update on that. I had noted that we had picked, her name is, going blank.
City councilor from Lapine
Yes, Christie, or,
as the vice chair.
Vice chair?
yeah,
And
she
she
declined.
quit, the vice chair.
She quit already.
Oh,
Yeah. So
Okay,
we,
lasted a half a meeting.
yeah, so we're,
wow.
we're gonna have to elect.
What's that say about Tammy? No, I'm just
No.
kidding.
That's not her
I'm just
fault.
kidding. No, I got it.
It's, and I said it on the meeting as well. I think the thing that's hard about this particular group is that the electronics in the Redmond Hall or wherever they meet are atrocious if you're doing it, if you're not there in person.
Yeah.
I'm going, I've got Coco on Monday, and I will be driving out there because I do not want to go through that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the time and
It was,
go out there.
it was
and-
painful.
Yeah, it was. But they did apologize and they're fixing that.
Is that
They have miles to catch up to this chamber.
Wow. Is that at City Hall?
Yes.
No,
Oh,
no, it's at their roads department.
Yeah.
Roads Department, okay.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
I have a meeting there tomorrow.
And they have like a camera that's across the top, that's the whole room. You can't see a dang thing in it.
Yeah.
And then
I've
somebody leaves
decided,
the
I've
mic on.
decided to physically go,
Yes.
just because I can't stand the Zoom.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
Got it.
but Susan did a great job.
And Susan, I want to say something to you. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Don't worry about small missteps, okay? It's not, this is a fluid situation at all times up here, so don't worry too much. And I wanted to say that publicly so people knew that we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay. Why was that funny? Oh, anyway, go ahead.
I just had my say, I said it on the meeting, I've got I'm gonna sit in on the COAC meeting coming up behind Andrea so I can get a sense of what's going on there. Urban Forestry Board meeting next week? Monday, and that's all for me.
All right, thank you.
I will apologize, I will not be here on the 22nd, I will be in remote. I know there's a lot on the agenda, including the parks plan, which I've kind of helping shepherd, but I have to be out of town, and so it will be a Zoom meeting for me.
That reminds me, I have to note myself, so go ahead.
Okay. Over the last 2 weeks, I participated in the Vision Implementation Team quarterly meeting. For the most part was an update from all of the players who attended the meeting. I feel like C4C is still working on the final bits of getting their feet underneath them on taking that process over. But getting ahead of scheduling the next meeting. So there wasn't a lot, it was more kind of updates and getting everybody up to speed versus any grand ideas or motions or anything like that. But it was good, I was new, there was a couple of new people there, so, worth the time to get caught up on what was going on in the community. And, you know, the upside is that in regards to the vision, I mean, a lot of things have been accomplished, you know, over the last few years, which is exciting to hear and reflect on that, so. The superintendent's coffee, I like to sit in on, and the school superintendent, the only really big takeaway from that was that the elementary school project is moving along. You know, and again, construction costs are all kind of all over the place. The two they're getting hit with are, you said that they went way over what they thought would be the permit costs. And also insurance is extremely higher than they thought that was going to be. And that's just construction insurance. That's not the building insurance, you know, so. I will say, and that'll circle me back, Chief Johnson did say in the vision implementation team, one thing he's working on, because he's at the state level, you know, with the Fire Chiefs Association, one of the bills they're trying to pass has to do with the insurance industry, and, you know, in concert with the, you know, the state insurance commissioner, to get insurance companies kind of on the same page about insurance, property insurance, especially around wildfire or hazards, because it's all over the board. Obviously, we know people who've had their, people or entities or businesses or whatever, have their insurance completely pooled, or jacked up 2, 3, 4 times what it was the year before, you know, and this kind of, you know, because of the threat of wildfire, or sometimes they don't really even give them an explanation. So the state fire chief's office, you know, in conjunction with the insurance commissioner, I'm hoping I'm saying this right, is trying to push a bill. That's kind of their main bill they're trying to push out of the 4,000, to get the about 100 different insurance companies that operate in the state to get on a level playing field, in regards to how they treat people in our communities. And I know people in and outside the city have been really impacted by that. So that sounded like a really good use of his time. I think we all agreed on that. You know, because each one of those companies has their own proprietary, you know, information they use to set rates or to drop people, and it has nothing to do with the Oregon Fire Map, even though they were also sent a letter to tell them to stop blaming it on the Oregon Fire Map, because these things happened before that map even existed.
And it didn't get implemented either, so.
No, it's still not official, or it's still, you know, so so I mean, that was good to hear, because that, you know, and also to try to push the insurance industry to be positive enforcement, you know, to, you know, maybe give people a financial incentive to improve their properties, private properties, commercial properties, whatever, versus just completely pulling their insurance or arbitrarily jacking up their rates. So that was exciting to hear. You know, who knows how far that'll get, but it was, I'm glad somebody's working on it, because it's been
That's a
very
complicated,
important issue right now.
yeah, it's complicated,
Yeah,
but important too.
yeah.
Go ahead.
May I tag on to something that
Sure.
Jennifer said? Relative to our communication to the public, it might be a good thing with our goals, the lists of things that got completed, to just put that in the paper. This got done, this got done, this got done, you know, I don't know. It's like State of the Union, only in.
Story idea.
Yeah.
Noted.
We don't get paid by the word.
And honestly, to piggyback on your piggyback,
Yes.
the vision could be the same thing, and just touch base and say, hey, we started the vision in 2018, we didn't, you know, get approved in this time, here was all of our goals, here's the ones we've done, and
Yeah.
it never hurts to touch base on that. And it's one of the reasons, honestly, that I wanted you on the vision, is because I know you're in, you know what I mean, and that you might want to spearhead something like that.
I haven't seen you taking notes. I hope you're taking notes on all this.
Oh, you know, perfect memory. I know.
All right. Okay, thank you. You're done? Okay.
I also think that if you feel, and I'm talking to you, Jennifer, if you feel that the visioning process is lagging or stalling or whatever, we may need to have an event that's updating the vision, come and see what's been accomplished. I mean, whatever we need to do to kickstart that, because I have people as well who come up to me and say, well, we spent all that time on the visioning and now we're doing all these things that don't seem to be following what we did all that work. Well, we need to be reminded of what's being accomplished along the line.
I still carry it wherever I go.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So.
this is my main
So
thing here.
keep bringing that up, that, maybe if we need to kickstart it with some, if we make food available, they will come, kind of.
That's right.
Try and keep the price down, though, if
Yeah.
that's okay.
Ice cream.
That's the only reason why I come every
I
day.
know, they're free
Yeah,
food.
I get a free lunch once a week.
No, that's a well noted, and that's kind of where I was coming from, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I want you to be creative and expansive as much as you want to be.
Yeah.
Keep us informed, and it's still a worthy goal, and I think that people in the community expect it from us, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we're not spearheading it, but yet so many things get on the shelf and then they die. We might have got
Yeah.
to make sure it doesn't happen.
And there was some discussion about that, the need for, there was a little bit of, they have an executive team that already were kind of, tweaking some of the process. And yeah, I think I was hearing from some people on the team that, time has changed, time has moved on. There's been successes and there's been some new challenges in the community, and it might need a refresh, so.
Right, always does.
Everything always needs a refresh. The process of planning for the future, from vision, comp plan, it's not a straight line. It never is. So we should always be thinking about how we shift gears and keep things relevant in some of the planning that we're doing. There's no doubt. Okay.
Had my first board meeting with Charo, the citizens coordination, the coordinated response of the houseless, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was very, very interesting. Had a couple of hours, wasn't nearly long enough, too much going on to even get close to even asking the questions I wanted to ask. The director is hiring staff, which is going to help her be able to do more things. And she wants to have a meeting in Sisters once a month to actually, see what's happening here or what's going on. And we are having telephone interviews this month, but we'll start physical interviews next month. Of the presentation that she gave, which was, this is what we have, this is what we would like to have, this is what it's going to take to move the needle, was amazing, and yet just hard to imagine that we can ever do it all that is necessary for it to be done. And do we have the money and the time? And yet the consequences if we don't do it are just astronomical. Consequences just like this little chart, just look at the curve. It's just kind of there, and then it starts going like this. That's what it's looking like.
Where are we at?
We are here.
What is that chart of?
And that's homeless people.
Estimated homeless in the future. It's not
The
going down.
annual
It's going up.
homeless point in time. So we don't know this is an estimate. And she's estimating that it's gonna go up 15% every year. And what she pointed out, which I hadn't really given much thought to, is even if we can engage and help a significant part of the people that are currently homeless, unless we do something about the faucet that is pushing people into homelessness, the curve will continue to go up, even if we're doing a lot of things we need to do. And I can give you a copy of this presentation. So what she's proposing is, if we do all the things that our strategic plan for this project outlines can be done, if there's the right kind of resources, the right kind of attention, the right kind of funding, the right kind of everything, is we cannot stop the curve from going up. This is 2024 until we are doing all those things, and then we can start reducing it at 15%, possibly a year, and you get down to zero, meaning just as many people are going out as are coming in.
That's not,
Not until 3032.
but that's not eliminating houselessness.
No.
That's just keeping it even.
That's you. So in other words, but if you keep the people from becoming houseless, there is a huge, and that's where right now we have lots and lots of money designated towards helping the houseless. We don't have as much funding dedicated towards keeping people from becoming houseless.
I'm gonna just read the end of the graph. 2032, if we don't succeed, it's 3,885 people at 15% per year. And the other one is zero.
In Deschutes County.
In
No,
Deschutes County.
Deschutes County.
Right.
I'm gonna talk about sisters here in a second, so.
So it basically talks about the 3-point plan, which is to detect housing instability, address the preconditions, and focus on prevention. That's one category. Then you have secure the resources, provide basic needs, focus on securing housing, and then create affordable housing, provide supportive service, and focus on stability. You have to do all three in order to reduce. We can, even with a lot of work, we will just maintain. So I'm very, very hopeful, willing to put in the time, hopefully with the governor's office, focused on it in every single department of the state government. She has said, wherever you can help or touch this issue, you must do it. And so we will see if there is actually the will and the ability to be able to do this. And that's going to be our challenge here, is how do we merge this into the consciousness of our community to say, I know you don't like to think that the neighboring property may eventually become a 3-story apartment building, but where can we provide these services and this housing in the City of Sisters? So we will see. Anyway.
You know what's sad is that this conversation we're having right now is the one that the public would really most benefit from, I think.
And everybody left, except for one person, thank you.
Except for one person, thank you.
Do you have anything?
No, that was it. I'm good.
I want to piggyback on the houseless issue. And I wish Mandy Seeley was here because I know she's passionate about it, but on Friday, January 27th, I did a ride along with Ian Reed and Jeremy Fields to survey with my own eyeballs the situation, as well as get their commentary and their daily activities with our houses. There's basically 3 main areas that they are looking at where they're grouped. One is the Pine Street area. One is out by the rodeo grounds, and one is Cold Springs out 242 out near the cutoff. Those are our 3 biggest groups. There are probably more houseless deeper into the forest and in other areas, but we just can't go that far every day. Basically, to administer services and check on them, Jeremy Fields goes every day, and he does a big loop on all these areas. It takes about 2 hours. And what people need to know is our sisters' homeless issue is completely different than any other place. When I talk about how Sisters is different, this fits right into that, in the goods and the bad of Sisters. We have a different issue than most. There's about 60 people that are houseless out there right now. Obviously, because it's the winter, it's the lower the numbers we're going to get. In the summer, we'll probably have 100, 150, possibly even 200, depending on the weather and other factors. Of the 60 people, we estimate that 30 to 35 of them work in town. if that was a single employer, that would be in the top 10 of employers in town. Our businesses rely on our houseless, which is not really the same in other places. It was amazing to see with my own eyes. I highly recommend any of you, if you want to do it. I think that Ian Reed would probably entertain you. I know of other people in the community that have done a similar. CLI is helping with water and
Cold weather,
it's
CLI, cold,
no,
community
not cold.
leadership.
Community leadership.
Community leadership.
Community
Right.
leadership
Okay, I got you.
initiative.
Right.
They're working on the water and the trash. The trash is really interesting because we all worry about it. One thing that is happening is that Jeremy Fields, who is also, who works for the Forest Service, but he also is a member of CLI on his own time. And through his special engagement with people on federal property, he's getting to know them. And what he is doing is he's encouraging people to take pride in their camps and be safe. And so he's helping them with the trash through CLI, but also through his position with the Forest Service. It's a very special relationship. He said, he's only got a few years before he retires. I think he meant like 10. And I hope he's able to do this the rest of his career because he's doing amazing work. I can't tell you how amazing it is that we have a Forest Service, a federal employee out there doing the work of 10 people, doing the work that we wish the county could do more, to be fair. He's out there every day. He knows them by name. He's super encouraging. He's soft-spoken. I'm going to just keep going. So there's 2 people from Banner Brothers that now are going to go out weekly. CLI is trying to get 5 weeks worth of volunteers so nobody has to do it more than once a month. And they're working on it. Now two veterans are doing that. And they're going to specifically try and target these people to see if we can provide extra help because they're veterans, which I think is what veteran advocacy groups should do. So that was one meeting. I have 3 others. Sorry. Thursday last week, I was contacted by the Oregon stakeholder people that are trying to create creative and cultural art districts throughout the state. It's a Business Oregon program. Business Oregon approached me to say, hey, can we just talk to you for a bit? And I said, sure. And then they said, hey, we got a Zoom stakeholder meeting, get on that. 60 stakeholders across the state. So it's a state program. And they're trying to create these creative districts to funnel funding through, which is very interesting. So, I hear funding, I go, okay, I'll listen. The stakeholder meeting was quite long, and I wasn't able to stay the whole time because I had other things going on. But then I met with the state level person at Business Oregon that's doing this program, and I met with her and Cappy, who's our local area regional rep for Business Oregon, and they brought up the idea of, hey, we're looking to have a pilot project, and Sisters is super artsy and cool. Do you guys want to do it? I'm like, well, I can't speak for the people, but sounds interesting, send me all you got. So they're gonna send me some information. I'm gonna share it with you guys. If we have enough interest that we can go, hey, do we want to be a pilot program? Maybe we should talk about it, find out what the art people want, and go from there. So it's kind of exploratory. I didn't rule it out, but at the same time, I just wanted to get some information, and as soon as I get information, I'll share it with everybody. That's all I got on that part. I'll talk about Explore Sisters now. That's the fourth meeting, because I had 2 meetings with those guys. Explore Sisters board was, is fantastic. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, the business owners that are on the board, Carrie was there. It was all super exciting. It was my first meeting, but they obviously already have momentum. Scott, the executive director, told us most of the conversation was based around branding and I mean, there was a lot of conversation. It was 2 hours long, but the biggest part of it was there's an RFP already out for branding and website stuff. He's doing a great job leading the group. Everybody was engaging, everybody was there, and I can't wait for the next meeting. I think it's fun. I think it's really, really fun. But it's super important, and there's just gonna be all kinds of different ideas coming out of it and different partnerships that we never had with our DMO before. You know, just like he's met with, I don't know, did he say how many people he met? He's met with 60, 70 people across, over the last, I think he said like 60-something people over the last 42 days or something like that. He's meeting with people in the community just to see how he can fit in and who's gonna be really keen on doing partnership and, go ahead.
I'm glad that you're on both groups, the previous group and this one, because as we think if we want to do something related to arts and some kind of a pilot program, there may be an opportunity, it's a big capital MAY, an opportunity to integrate the work the DMO is doing, or the DMO looking at it and saying, we have a project that we really would like to see done to help us out. I mean, I don't know, but the point is that we need to look for those opportunities and then leverage them in any way that we can.
And there's an art point person on the VIT as well. So.
Yeah, let's get together and maybe, let's get some information together first. Let's see what the program is. But it's really interesting. I mean, again, I think Sisters is special. If you're gonna have a pilot project on art, Sisters is top 5 in the state, I think, right? Yeah. Easy. So let's just look at it and see what we see, and maybe it can get into the goal setting, explore the idea of arts something, or not, but we'll see. We'll just see how it goes. And that's about it. The great thing the last thing I wanted to say about Explore Sisters is they're doing branding for themselves, but let's face it, they're doing branding for the city. I mean, traditionally it's been Sisters Country, and we appreciate again what that was, but we're doing more. We're doing more now, and it's going to be a little bigger, and it's going to be, it's going to be different. So
Sisters Nation.
Yeah. Let's take over. But honestly, that's what they're there for. And obviously, I'm just an advisory role. I'm just here to tell you what's going on. But at the same time, they're the point for all of our marketing, branding, and this is what we've hired them for. So it's pretty good. The 22nd, my wife has a medical procedure, and I might have to be on Zoom as well. We'll be home, but she will be recuperating, and I just don't know. I will do everything I can to be here, and
I'll do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what I just want to say. I gotta do what I gotta do. So
the hierarchy,
there is
wife,
she's
everything
higher.
else.
I would love if the city had citywide Wi-Fi. Who did you mention that? Is that an idea of yours? It's been rolling in my head. I lost sleep over it like the other night. I was like,
Well, I had a
I don't
balloon in
know.
mind, but someone shot it down.
I don't know what everybody thinks about it.
That was your balloon?
I don't know what everybody thinks about it, but I think, again, to make...
I had good signal for about a day.
Did you?
Honestly, I think...
But it was all Chinese.
No, yeah,
That's called CB. That's different.
I agree with you.
I think it would be fun to explore. I don't know how we get that conversation going, other than I just said it, and I said it in a public forum, and I think it's a good idea.
Goal setting.
Are we talking municipal broadband? Is that what we're talking?
Well, what,
I think that would be great.
I mean, I think that Explore
Other
Sisters
towns
would
have done
love to take that on. I don't know. Honestly, I just think it's a good idea. I think it's very special, and we'll just.
Discuss it at goal setting.
Maybe,
Goal
I don't
setting.
know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Paul's smiling back there. I think he likes it when I shoot high.
He's going, woo!
Finish it.
No, go ahead.
I want to, since I'm going to be on Zoom as well, and this, how limiting it can be, and with the parks plan coming up, I want to give Paul a nod for, you don't know how much work has gone in a fine print reading in that document. And when you look at the comments for changes, I would say that 80% of them have a certain person's name on them. And it's a 4-letter name, it begins with P, sounds like all, so, and I want to really kind of give you a shout out. When you see that document at our next meeting, it won't have all that stuff in it, and it's
His fingerprints are all over.
I think he ran over it with his truck,
Yeah.
but it's.
Well, he's the one that's gonna have to live with it.
Well, and I know, but the point is, that it's more than just the stuff he has to live with. There's a lot of other things in there, clarifications and those things. So he's done a great job, and there was another whole list that came in my inbox just yesterday, I think it was.
So you didn't have AI write it?
No, I didn't have the I write it.
Let's not go there. The last thing I was gonna say is kind of along that line. I want to remind, and there's nobody left really, but you guys are here, so I want to say this for the record. We haven't had a city manager for 6 months. We've been going without that. I just have to thank all of you, the directors, Carrie, and really all of city staff, but you guys are taking on the load. You have no idea how much we appreciate it, and you have no idea how many just in the community don't know, really. They're not really paying attention. I know you're all working extra hours and things like that, and we thank you for it. The city's nothing without staff. I know. It's all of you though, because there's an empty office back there for the big guy or the big girl, whoever, and we're gonna fill that pretty soon. And I think that this,
I put my phone on.
yeah, there you go. No, I really believe that this go-around is gonna get us the right person, whoever that is.
I do too.
And I'm confident that come April, May, whatever the first day is, we're all gonna dance around, and I hope you guys all take some time off.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time, right.
Special thank you to Joe and Carrie.
Yeah, definitely. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions, anything? Last words?
Bring on the checks. Let's sign the checks. We're all sitting.